Welcome to episode 239 of the Grip Strip Podcast, the Game Changers and Speed Demons edition of the Grip Strip Podcast. My name is Philip Matthew. I'm your host, and in terms of game changes, I went to two-handed bowling, so I guess that is a game changer for me. In terms of the Speed Demon, we have the iRacing Indy 500 champion, a computer genius, a gentleman, a scholar, and a leadfoot. His name is Joshua Fine, secretly akin to the great Brock Yates book, the Cannonball Run. Unbeknownst to me, and we've been friends for a long time, my co-host, of course, the great sim racer, decided to become a real racer on the roads of these great United States of America. And I think you could have went and done a presidential rally at 100 miles an hour. That would have been, you would have probably had a better chance of running and winning, running at about 85 miles an hour average. That's insane to think about, but it sounded like you all had a good time. We have to open with this. I mean, this is just insane. Like, it's better than having young Tom Kendall. It's better than having. I mean, I say that, but in jest. But it's like Tom Kendall, Ralph Sheheen, two of my heroes. Being able to have other heroes of mine in motorsports, but this is like something that I wish I could do. Like, is somebody to ask me to go and take my grocery getter and go and try to hit the governor on that thing. I would do it in a heartbeat if I knew I could fade all that stuff. I mean, there is so much going on, so many questions asked. But tell me, let's hear about this, man. It's crazy.
No, it definitely is crazy to, do something like this. I mean, the Cannonball Run, which, everybody knows, or anybody that knows anything about cars and the history knows about the run from New York all the way down, from the Red Ball Garage down to Los Angeles at the Portofino Bay Hotel. That's the original Cannonball Run, and people have done it. Brock Yates wrote the articles about trying to do it and being able to safely make it from one place to another without impeding traffic and all that. But this route that we did was the Old Spanish Trail, Southern route, whatever you want to call it, of the Cannonball Run, going from Jacksonville Beach all the way out to Dog Beach out in San Diego. So, we did that as mostly Interstate 10 for the most part until Arizona, when we get onto Interstate 8 and then follow the way out to follow that all the way down to San Diego. But we did it over this weekend. I did not really tell many people about this until like the couple of days before, when I did, tell people at work, like, I'm going to be gone the next couple of days, the next week. And they're like, oh, why? I'm taking a trip. And, taking a trip down to San Diego. Oh, that must be fun. Yeah, but we're really doing it. The drive itself is the trip. Oh, why? Because it's the Cannonball Run. But this was one of my friends had brought this up like back in May, and he's like, hey, I'd like to do this. And I was like, oh, like the Cannonball Run? Well, yeah, I like that, but the coast to coast version. And kind of the talks kind of slowly matriculated until maybe like last month in it's October. So at the August time, we started kind of coordinating this, and then started having some meetings on Zoom coordinating and going over what car would we get, how would we get back to where we live, where each of us all live, how fast we would go, and all that, and coordinating, okay, who's gonna get what supplies that we need for this and everything. And then it culminated in this. But we had an Audi A6 in there, and we were able to go on I-10, had Waze, the app running for reports, radar detector, and we had a couple of other apps that we were using for radar reports and detection and stuff. So yeah, it was a long drive, of course, through I-10. Seemed like Texas would never end. Texas, I think, took, I don't know, like 8 hours to get through from the beginning of Texas all the way out till El Paso. So that was long trip, but in that of itself, but because I think the other states only took like maybe a few hours to get through. But yeah, that was definitely like a long time, and we were able to take naps at different points, and we all woke up like, are we out of Texas yet? No, we're still in Texas. So yeah, that was definitely a long ride. I started out in Jacksonville, since I know Jacksonville roads, of course, being the Jacksonville guy. Started out from Jax Beach, which wasn't really much. Just get out onto A1A, make a left, make a right onto Butler Boulevard, and then get onto I-95, and then get onto I-10 from there, and then just keep going west. So did that, and then saw some of the destruction from Hurricane Helene, of course, which relevant to NASCAR people, of course, because it's affected North Carolina seemingly more than it has Florida, which is kind of interesting to me, but that's how it is. But anyway, saw some of the initial damage of trees being knocked over and stuff alongside I-10. So saw some of that, and then for driver changes, it would start out with the driver going into the passenger seat for being co-pilot, navigator, and then whoever was in the co-pilot navigator seat went to the back seat and did took a nap or whatever. So, and once that happened, I was able to take some video and stuff with my phone and my camera. So I'll have to put that together at some point, and everything. And yeah, we went from Florida and then into a little bit of Alabama, which is not very long because I-10 going through Alabama is just like that little end on Alabama. So that was very, very short going through there. But seeing all the countryside, seeing the sunset through Mississippi was pretty nice. Drove past LSU while they were playing the game against, I guess, Southern Alabama or whoever it was. But, going over the bridge across the Mississippi, if you kind of look to your left, you can see the Death Valley, I guess, whatever the LSU stadium is called, but it was lit up and everything. You could see that. We changed drivers, of course, a couple of times, like I said, but a couple of times when we changed drivers, we'd get out of the car, what we did is like we got onto an exit ramp and then crossed over onto the on-ramp back onto the freeway, but we pulled over, and then the driver basically do a Chinese file drill, driver go to the co-pilot go to the back, and then guy in the back seat jump in the front. So we did that a few times, and doing that, and then going through Texas, we were able to finally kind of open things up there and go whatever speed we needed to. There wasn't really too much traffic going through Houston, surprisingly, and then between Houston and San Antonio, it's fairly open. Got a little lost in San Antonio. We were trying to figure out a way to get the most efficient way through, because I-10 kind of breaks up through that, I guess, and we were trying to find a way through one of the belt loops, and then we made a wrong turn by mistake because I was co-pilot and I read the directions incorrectly, and we ended up on a service road for a minute, and then we were able to get back on the freeway, but it did cost us a little bit of time and everything, and then got back on the freeway, and then on I-10, and then it's time for me to take a nap, so took a nap there while that was happening, and then I woke up, and we're planning our next fuel stop for me to take over, and we're at like 10 miles to empty on the tank. And this was not like, it's not like, oh, we intentionally got to, or no, we didn't plan to get gas, but just I guess the way we planned our fuel stop, we were getting close to empty there, and so I was a little nervous, like, are we going to make it on gas here in the middle of nowhere on I-10 in Texas? And then we were able to find or get to the gas station that we had, my friends had found, and go from there. But yeah, like I said, Texas took forever, seemingly like, we're going through Texas and we can see the light start to come on the other side. And it's like, well, we're heading into more darkness because we're going into New Mexico and Arizona and everything. But, daylight came, and then, eventually we got through Texas, got through New Mexico, and I think at some point either New Mexico or maybe it still might have been Texas, or Arizona. I don't know where exactly because I fell asleep at some point sitting in the back on one of the turns that I had. But we got to the Border Patrol checkpoint, and then the Border Patrol, we get there and we roll down our window, and the guy's like, "Are you a U.S. citizen?" And we're like, "What do you mean?" And they're like, "Are you a U.S. citizen?" And we're like, "Yeah, we all are." He looked at all of us and we're like, "Yes." And that was kind of weird because we're like, "What are we doing? Why are they checking for this?" Like, we don't have any illegals in the back of our car or anything, but we got through that. And there are a few more checkpoints like that. There was one for agriculture, I think, in California, and then later on in California there was another checkpoint like that. And we rolled down the window, and the guy passing or letting us through, he kind of just looked at us and we're like, "Yeah, you guys are good, let us through." And then we're like, "Are we even paying our taxes for this? What's Border Patrol even useful for?" But just like they just looked at us and like, "Okie dokie, pal," kind of thing. So let us through. And then we saw a lot of beautiful countryside throughout the Arizona. It was really nice kind of seeing that, getting gas in Arizona. Didn't realize how hot it was because I had my jacket in the car. It was a little cold in Texas, and then in Arizona, get out to get gas, and it's like 105 outside. I'm like, I thought it was over. I thought all that was done, but apparently it's still well over 100 degrees in Arizona. So then after Arizona, got into California, and then went through a lot of Imperial Valley, which I used to live in California, and I forgot that was there, and that took forever to get through that. But then once we kind of got through the mountains, we got into El Cajon. Shout out Jimmy Johnson there. I was like, well, I start to remember some of this because I've been to El Cajon and shopping there at the mall there, and going through Interstate 8, and then we get to California or get to San Diego, and then Interstate 8 ended, and then we got to the beach and seeing that. So it was where we parked, because I guess specifically on this route you're supposed to park at Ocean Beach or Dog Beach, which Dog Beach obviously is a dog beach there. So parked there and then got out and then touched the ocean. First time for me touching the Pacific Ocean since 2009, so or maybe 2008. So I was able to do that. And then we were in Jacksonville. We had ceremonially took some sand and put it in a jar, right? And then we took that same jar and then poured some California sand, San Diego sand in there. So now I've got a little jar of sand. We had one for each of the three of us, and then now I have a sand mixed of two of the sands from both coasts. So yeah, truly coast to coast trip there, and everything. And I told my dad about. I told my dad about this beforehand, but like when we got back, like I told him that we gotten the two kinds of sand, and then he was like, well, and I haven't verified this yet, but apparently if you pour the Atlantic Ocean into the Pacific Ocean, apparently that's illegal for some reason. So I don't know. I'm guessing because of like ecology reasons or something, like different organisms that live in the Atlantic Ocean and then taking them to the Pacific or something. But I'm sure that's like if you're like pouring like metric tons or something of ocean from the Atlantic Ocean into the Pacific, maybe that's what it is. I'll have to verify this. I meant to do this and I forgot, but apparently that is, which not to speak of what we were doing, so which was going over the speed limit, which for legal purposes I won't admit to. But obviously averaged 85 miles an hour through that. So we were using the radar detectors and everything. I mean, I would say for the most part, I drove conservatively, at least like when we were in traffic. When you think about this, it's like, people are how fast are you going? Like, how are you getting through traffic? I mean, it's not like we're, zipping through traffic, not like I'm trying to fight to the front to go to Talladega, like, we'll see on Sunday here in the Cup Series. But, going through traffic, you just kind of mind your way through traffic like you normally would. And maybe if a hole opens up, you try to take advantage of that. But, just a lot of, it was definitely a lot of fun, trying to go through that. I think it's definitely challenging, especially when you had a little sleep going through that. And, the early shift, third shift at, 3 a.m., definitely, that was very challenging. But yeah, got through it, and, we were able to not have any issues, anything like that. The only issue that I think we really had was the right side mirror. We noticed the right side mirror in Arizona was starting to fall off. The mirror part, not the housing, just the mirror part was starting to get wobbly, and then I think we ended up fixing it before turning in the car. So, got to San Diego. We celebrated with In-N-Out Burger because it's quintessential California and everything. And then, we turned in the car and then got the hotel for the night, walked around for a little bit on the beach and the harbor and everything, and seeing that again in California, which, like I said, I've lived there for 18 months when I was in middle school. So kind of being on that side of the country again was pretty nice. Actually getting out, because I'm used to the humidity in Florida, and then going out onto the beach in California, I'm like, what is a beach even without humidity? And seeing that, like, I just like, I like, how do we have a beach without humidity? Like, this is like feels like a foreign country right now being here. But actually, yeah, feeling pretty nice walking outside like that, and enjoying the weather. But yeah, those took us 28 hours to get there. So obviously traffic worked out for us in Texas and Arizona and New Mexico. The only real problems we had with traffic was really just in Florida. There's just a lot of traffic in Florida, so we couldn't really do too much there. But just about trying to just get through there and survive and everything. So yeah, obviously telling people about this now, it's like, this is insane. Obviously, like you said, it's very wild. I don't know if I'll do it again, just because obviously it takes a lot of effort to do this. But I mean, we talked about like, oh, if we were going to do this again, maybe we should actually stop at places and enjoy the places that we pass through. Which, I mean, that's probably a way to do it, to actually visit the different parts of the country that you go through and everything. I mean, maybe we might try the original Cannonball Run route, but obviously that we'll see how that works. But yeah, obviously, yeah, a lot of fun. I guess we'll have to figure out a way, because I mean I'm telling you this and you're like, well, okay, well, this guy, like, anybody listening might be like, is this guy like telling the truth? And I mean, I do think I'll try to put this on YouTube. I've got to talk to my friends and make sure they're good with it, which I think maybe they are, as long as they at least leave it unlisted. We'll see. But I think we took pictures of all the points that we stopped at, and took pictures of every time we of the odometer every time we got out. We had a GPS tracker tracking our average speed and the time elapsed. So that's another way of proving it. We got dash cams, got time lapse cams. So we got a lot of things to prove that we did this. So yeah, that was interesting to be able to do. Obviously, there are other people that have done this in the past, which if you go on YouTube and look at VinWiki, they've got a video where they did this challenge, and they did it in 24 hours, and they actually got stopped twice by the police, and one of them gave them a ticket in Mississippi. So they were able to go through that, but obviously they not without any problems. But we didn't have any issues with that at all, which glad, thankfully, didn't have to interact with it. I've never had a citation in my life, so glad that we kept it like that, and everything. But let's see what else. I guess, yeah, getting gas, like, the situation there, get out of the car, get gas, 2 people go to the bathroom, at least wait for one person to get back, and then whoever is filling gas go to do their thing there in the bathroom. But we only had like 30 minutes total that we stopped, so or less than. It was like 29, like 48 or something, or something that we spent stop total. So that was including fuel stops. A couple of times maybe we stopped to go to a rest stop really quick, but yeah, very, very efficient in terms of stoppage there, which I thought maybe we'd be a little bit more than that, but we were able to save time there and everything. And obviously the fueling systems at these truck stops were fairly quick in fueling up the car and filling it up back to a full tank. So yeah, the Jacksonville coast to coast to San Diego, definitely a challenge. And yeah, I've said a lot, but definitely if you're able to do this, definitely do it if you can, obviously, but make sure you take the precautions and understand the risks of doing this, because I mean, besides the police and everything like that and all that, looking out for that, there's also the issues like it could have a flat tire, could have other things like that. So definitely things can go wrong. So really thankful that nothing went wrong there, and going through that. So yeah, that's the Cannonball Run. And I guess, yeah, you mentioned journalists like Tommy Kendall and Ralph Shaheen. I guess, yeah, well, you're going to introduce me as that, because Tommy knows me as the Indy 500 guy, and now you're going to introduce me as that and the Cannonball Run guys, and you're like, wow, this guy really has done a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm way older than you, and I can't go and say that I've done most of that stuff. So I go and defer to you on many things, but now on top of sim racing, champion of sort with his Indy 500 win, you've went on real roads of America and traversed those without while fading, the popo, akin to the days of the 1970s and the Cannonball Run, and which is a great book. One of my favorite books was that. And so it was cool to listen, just hearing about it and hearing all whatever details, and looking forward to more whatever we do see, because obviously for all security purposes and trying to keep certain things on the DL to make sure that your guys aren't like caught out or anything. Definitely, I sat there yesterday when you told me that, and I'm like, did you tell me anything about this? I'm like, I don't think so. And then I'm like, oh, you went on a trip. I'm like, all right, cool. Yeah, we'll talk about it. And I was thinking about it even today, and I'm like, did he tell me about that? I'm like, it still didn't, none of it really made sense. Then we're talking about it, and you're like comfortably talking about this, so it obviously went pretty cleanly, because I'm sure that if there was some sort of resistance, we probably wouldn't be talking about it to lead the show. But that is pretty ridiculous, pretty insane, and definitely not our usual opening, but I'll try to somehow or another do that now after Josh talked about his driving escapades this past weekend. We're going to talk about something a little bit more tame, which was at Kansas Speedway this past weekend, the triple header for all 3 major NASCAR series. Ross Chastain won in the Cup Series, Aric Almirola in Xfinity, and Corey Heim in trucks. We have on this Wednesday evening a post from 2311 and Front Row Motorsports joining an antitrust lawsuit against NASCAR based on their monopoly. So that's huge news. And listen to the lawyer who is backing bringing this case for 2311 and Front Row Motorsports, who has been involved in other lawsuits and been successful against other major sports leagues. So there's a lot going on with that. In more positive news, Darrell Walsh Jr. and his wife Amanda gave birth to Bex Hayden Wallace this past Sunday morning. So congrats to the Wallace family. And it's great for Bubba. I thought he was going to end up having that, like, the juice of being a first-time dad. It was going to help him at one of his better racetracks, but unfortunately it didn't work out that way. But in IndyCar, there's been a lot going on. We didn't get to cover it last week, but, you know, we've had plenty of stuff going on with Michael Andretti and Andretti Global. Between IP, information being stolen to Dan Taurus taking over Andretti Global, the charter agreement, and some of the stuff that's come from that, including Ed Carpenter Racing having a new investor that basically allowed them to pay for Alexander Rossi's salary to go over there. And then for Texas, because they left Texas Motor Speedway, they're going to race around Jerry World, supposedly, in Frisco in 2026, supposedly. And then there's also talk of them racing in Argentina on an oval, but they can't race in the Northeast anywhere. Seems convenient. Daniel Riccardo, his Formula One career, for all intents and purposes, is over after One-Eyed Marco and Red Fool pulled a plug on him after Singapore. They basically hung him out to dry in the media, and he knew the writing was on the wall. It sounds like One-Eyed Marco wanted him out at Catalunya. And so we'll talk about Danny Rick, one of the most popular guys, one of the funniest people that's ever been in Formula One, 8-time winner in Formula One, won Monaco, won Monza, won at Montreal for his first win, just like Lewis Hamilton. So had in his peak was really, really good. So we'll talk about him. In NFL Week 4, I know Josh will have plenty to say about his Jacksonville Jaguars. On the flip side, the 49ers had a get-right game against a relatively weak New England Patriots team. Great performances from certain areas of the team, of course, most prominently Brock Purdy. But you had other guys show up all across the team, but there were still issues in key areas that reared their head during the 2 losses. We also have Christian McCaffrey having Achilles tendonitis in both of his legs, which is always great when you're the offensive player of the year and you were carrying the team in a lot of ways last year on offense. Figure he won't be back till November at least. We'll also talk about fantasy. It wasn't a great week for me in fantasy. The only team that won was my team, the team in my league. I killed Matt's team, which was nice to get that victory. And then my gift for going and getting myself back to 500 is going against Speedy Gonzalez over there this week in fantasy. So Josh and I always usually have tough matchups, tight matchups. So why not another one here early in the season, week 5, the first week of the bye week. So we'll see what happens with that. The roundup is pretty tight. MotoGP ran in Indonesia last week. They'll be in Japan this weekend in Motegi. NHRA raced at Gateway, and now they're taking a couple weeks off. World Superbikes were at Aragon, and then the Rally Chile for the WRC. Before we bring out the Tate Fogleman algorithm, I don't think you use that on your run across the U.S., but you can definitely use it here when it comes to a super speedway race. We'll mention the new changes to the Gen 7 for Talladega to keep the car down, which is probably like about the 900th different thing they've tried to do to either slow cars down or keep them from going airborne, and they probably won't work. But that's NASCAR for you. Josh will somehow or another try to go and talk about something that with iRacing that could top what he just did, which outside of winning another Indy 500 or winning Monaco or whatever the hell you can win on there, winning Le Mans or Daytona or Rolex, I don't think you can, but we'll see, and then we'll call it a day. So let us start with Watermelon Farmer, the 13th generation watermelon farmer, Ross Chastain, in a lost season for the Trackhouse effort and for his team in his first year running with one of the anchor partners for NASCAR and Busch, misses the playoffs, while his teammate Daniel Suarez, who pretty much sucked outside of his one win, and then a few races coming in towards the playoffs, made it with his win at Atlanta, and then somehow or another backdoored his way into round two. But on Sunday at the Hollywood Casino 400, Ross Chastain was one of the better drivers out there. Plenty of drivers led the race, but really there were only 4 drivers that led double-digit laps. You had Ross Chastain, who of course won the race, led 52 laps. William Byron led 24 and finished second. Christopher Bell started on pole, led 122 laps, so the most laps, but finished 7th. And then Kyle Busch, who had an incident with Chase Briscoe and wasn't the only person that had an incident with Chase Briscoe on Sunday, was leading the race, was trying to pass Chase, but decided to put his car into a hole that wasn't there while Briscoe was trying to stay on the lead lap, and then wrecked himself, which I think Kyle Busch driving the 18 car, Kyle Busch wouldn't have never gotten himself into that situation. He might have even moved Chase, if anything. This version of Kyle Busch left himself vulnerable. Carson Hocevar went and called Chase Briscoe a hack, and it takes one to know one. A guy who less than a year ago was wrecking Corey Heim in the Truck Series, ran over Nick Sanchez for his first Truck Series win. Guy is basically a dart without feathers. Yeah, you've had a few good races, bro, but you're not really that good. Call me when you have at least one A Cup race, or won something of value, won some sort of championship that isn't like, whatever, Bandoleros or whatever the fuck, I get that you have validity with Chevrolet. I guess you have validity because you're at Spire, but beating Corey LaJoie doesn't mean a lot. Let's be fair here. I could probably beat Corey LaJoie, though I will say, for the fact that Corey LaJoie may or may not have a cup ride, all of a sudden he has become like decent. I don't know what got into him. I don't know if somebody has taken Corey out of the car and put his dad in there or his granddad randomly, who are both great racers in their own right. But I mean, Corey LaJoie got a top 15 finish in his first race for Rick Ware Racing. So pretty interesting how that came off. in terms of the playoff guys, we'll go through the rundown. I mentioned Chastain, the winner. 3 non-playoff guys in the top 5. Byron finished second. Blaney finished 4th. Bowman, Bell, Hamlin, Clyde, who started tailback with an engine change, finished 6 through 9. And then Zane Smith finished 10th. So another good run for him. We don't know what he's going to be doing. Winner at a couple weeks ago, Christopher Buescher goes out and finishes 11th. Bald Spot Dylan, 12th. Daniel Suarez was 13th. Joey Logano, 14th. Ben mentioned Bubba Wallace, he finished 17th. Ty Dillon, who somehow or another gets another opportunity in Cup, driving for Kaulig next year. He finished 21st. Briscoe finished 24th, had no pace the whole day. Reddick was 25th, which is shocking. But just as shocking is Kyle Larson finishing 26th. Reddick has had a terrible playoff. Larson, you just figure... I figured he was going to win on Sunday, so the fact that he finished 26th is crazy, knowing that they're going to Talladega and the Roval. And then Gumby Cindric finished 34th. So, that Chastain goes out there, wins the race, was able to hold off Byron. Some of these playoff drivers had a brutal run. Briscoe and Cindric didn't need that kind of run going into Talladega and the Roval, knowing their points positions. But for Reddick and Larson, the top 2 guys in points heading into this playoff, not a great way to start round 2. And we'll talk about what happened to Josh Berry in a little bit. He finished dead last in this race, but it was yet another example of NASCAR's rules or overreach or whatever rearing its head based on, I guess, stupidity and ignorance. But Chastain goes out there and gets the win. Josh holds off a playoff guy. And I guess Trackhouse is getting ready for 2025 by showing speed. And this is a way to set up for that, going out there and winning races. Buescher already did it in the last round, so now you have Chastain joining him.
Yeah, Chastain playing spoiler to open the round of 12, which, Chastain, talk about his performance throughout the year. We said it on a couple of our shows lately, how competitive he actually has been throughout this year, having the third highest, one of the, I guess out of full-time drivers, having the 4th highest average finish here in the Cup Series. So for him to go and do this, it's not too surprising to see him come away with these performances. Actually, the 3rd highest, I'm reading it as it is, but the 3rd highest average finish, and he should be a playoff driver. He just had a bad stretch of races back in the summer, and we saw him perform not that great this year, but he was still in the playoff until the very end. So if he had some things going his way, he would have been playoff driver, and then this would have been him qualifying for the round of 8, which we've seen what they've been able to do over the years. And Chastain, we've seen him get to the Final Four. We've seen him compete in the playoffs. So they just need to have better all around luck in terms of, and consistency in terms of how they finish. But they show when they're dominant, they show their cards. And for him going into Kansas, had some pretty good finishes at Watkins Glen and Bristol, and it kind of getting back in everybody's radar. But now he goes out here and takes the win away from a playoff driver, which, William Byron should be set for this playoff, but at least for this round. But, with things in this playoff, he's the point leader right now, but obviously if something were to happen at Talladega and at the Roval, get caught up in bad luck, he's probably going to be wishing that he had won this race here at Kansas. So, Chastain, of course, he wins at the wrong time, I guess, because he needed this win before the playoffs started to qualify his way in. And then also, look back at last year, had one win throughout most of the year and then finally wins the last race in the season. So, they just need to be able to figure out how to put things together more consistently and win at a, better pace than what they do. So we could see them next year in 2025, of course, adding SVG into the stable there with him and Daniel Suarez could be a preview of, what they could be performing at. We've seen them perform well mile and a halfs when the next gen started out, and they kind of have fallen off since then. So now going into the next year, showing some better speed, maybe they'll be better as a team overall, and certainly be a lot more competitive there. So, Chastain, Justin Marks, they've been able to disrupt the playoffs in a way, which I guess for Suarez, he kind of needed that win too, but he obviously wasn't really in contention for this one and finished 13th, but I'm sure Daniel probably would have preferred to have won that race instead of his teammate to get him into the round of 8. But this was I guess kind of an interesting one there, because also you had non-playoff contenders as well, like Kyle Busch, who had a shot at victory late and could have been there, but then Chase Briscoe tried to hold him there off of turn 4 and try to hold him up there, I guess, or take his air away to stay in front of him so he could stay on the lead lap, I think. And Kyle Busch spun out, which it's kind of interesting to see Kyle Busch's performance in this next gen car. Some people think maybe this car doesn't fit him or anything, but I just think it's just a stroke of luck that he just hasn't had in this car so far this in this current generation. So Kyle Busch only has 6 more tries to be able to get a win before he goes winless and end his current 18-year streak of winning at least 1 year or one race in the Cup Series. So we'll see if he's able to do that. But in this one wasn't able to come through with the victory there. So this was definitely a lot that happened for sure throughout. Kyle Larson, who won back in the spring here in the closest finish ever, ends up being a non-contender for the most part. Tyler Reddick, after winning this race last year, kind of stealing the win, ends up finishing, in the back here in 25th. So not a great finish for him there. So, and now he's on the other side of the playoffs after being in, contention for the whole year, being the playoff point leader at the end. Now has a bad finish. So this is critical for him, Talladega here, to pull out another victory like he did in the spring. So we'll see if Tyler Reddick can get back onto the green here next weekend or this coming weekend. So that's definitely a critical effort for him to be able to get back on the right side. But these playoff drivers, it's tough when somebody else wins and you're not able to capitalize on that, because obviously these playoffs definitely are very competitive and can be very stressful.
Yeah, and there's, a lot of volatility with this playoff this year so far, and was it 4 races, and then you're going to go and add Talladega and the Roval into it this round before a very tame round 3. Something that definitely wasn't ideal or in the cards for Josh Berry was spinning out and getting involved in a wreck early in the race, but his car was functional. The only thing he needed was 4 tires. he was told not to get out of the car, but he ended up having to because he was taken into the infield because of the damaged vehicle policy. It the registered what I don't know how much of a G hit that he had. It was a 5-car incident that involved Barry, Ty Dillon, Harrison Burton, Clyde, and Jimmy Johnson. Yeah, there you go. With the 5-car actually spun out too, so that's something. But in terms of what happened with Josh Berry, I mean, we had that also at Watkins Glen with Ryan Blaney saying all he needed was tires, and they parked him. They said there was a mechanical issue or something that took him out. Then today or this week, Brad Moran goes and says, "Oh, there was a reading that showed that they were out, or they were not, they couldn't go and keep going, and then the car wasn't rolling because they had 4 flat tires because of the stupidity of this car." I mean, are we really? I mean, I think we have some other stuff that we have to talk about, but it's like, are we really doing the right thing here? Are they? I mean, NASCAR with this car has hit certain areas where it's actually been very good, but there's way more negative, it seems, that has come from this car the longer we go, and this is definitely one of those instances. I mean, you have a single lug. You have all these stupid trucks going around. You're telling me that you can't put a couple of, tires, spare, going and having an air gun, jack up the car in the rear, not to mess with the diffuser or whatever the hell, and go and put 2 rear tires on the damn thing so it can roll. I don't know where we're going with this. I mean, eliminating cars. I mean, that's what people were talking about. Dale Jr. talked about on his show. It's like, if you and David Hoots, who was his guest, going and saying if it affects Phoenix, like, it's a 300 lap race, it's not a very long race. If you spin out and you blow all your tires out and you're one of the final 4, what are they going to do? They're going to park you like that, and you're going to be out of the championship. I mean, is this really good for racing, or are we doing WWE? I mean, granted, that's what NASCAR's become, but I don't know what you think of that, Josh, in terms of what happened. I mean, Rodney Childers doesn't get mad about much. It takes a lot for Rodney Childers to really show a whole heck of a lot of emotion. So when something like this happens, and he was pretty PO'd, and Josh Berry is not somebody who shows a lot of emotion either, that something's kind of gone off the rails here. So what were your thoughts on what happened with Josh Berry?
I mean, just seeing the clip of him being towed into the campers lot, like, that's pretty ridiculous. Like, why would they do that? And they said they were going to originally tow him back to the pits, but then I guess because he wasn't running, they towed him into the infield, which, yeah, none of that makes any sense to me, because you should be able to just tow him back to the pits and give him a chance to get back into the race. But that's got to be a surreal feeling when you're being towed and you think you're going to go back into the pits, but then all of a sudden you're around people that you shouldn't be going through and everything, and you see in the camera there that all the fans in the campgrounds seeing that. I mean, that's an opportunity for them, I guess, to get up close to the next gen car. But yeah, at the same time, for Josh Berry, that's like not what should happen. And I think part of it is they didn't have the system installed on their car to I guess give them a chance to get the air jack system that they had to, in case this does happen, they can easily change the tires on the so you can tow them back. But I I don't even think that should be necessary. They should just be able to tow the guy back to the pits or figure out, how to change the tire. And, for NASCAR, it definitely makes them look Bush League, especially when, you just get towed back into the pits or, through the garage or, through the campgrounds. Like, that shouldn't happen, but, evidently it did. But I guess for that, the fact that we now have situations where tires are flat after a spin, and especially Josh Berry didn't hit anything, didn't make contact with the other cars, but goes there and is out of the race just because he spun out. Which 3 years ago in NASCAR, that's normal. You spin out, just roll back to the pits. Maybe you have a flat tire, so you drive slowly so it doesn't blow out or anything. But now it's like almost an automatic L to be able to get a flat tire and not be able to make it back to the pits. So I guess it's the consequence of running this tire that they have that doesn't have an inner liner on the big ovals. So they got to figure out a different way to. Kind of rambling here, but they got to figure out a different way to take care of drivers after a spin like that. Because that was definitely ruined Josh Berry's race. I guess being spun out and having to be towed back would have ruined his race anyways, but still would have been able to continue. So they barely even got through the race, didn't complete an entire lap, and finished dead last there. So just ridiculous there to see that, and definitely got to think that hopefully they'll have a solution to that.
And hopefully they do have a solution for next year, because it's not a good look for the series when you're supposed to be the biggest form of stock car racing in America, and you got crap like this going on. So we'll see what happens with that as we move forward, though. Points heading into Talladega, the wild card there. Points with Byron plus 34 over the cut. Blaney plus 28 along with Christopher Bell. Kyle Larson plus 18. And Hamlin plus 11 in fifth. Alex Bowman plus 8. Chase Elliott and Joey Logano are tied 7th and 8th right now, plus 4 over Tyler Reddick, who was a regular season champion. He is minus 4. Of course, he won at Talladega earlier this year. And then you have Daniel Suarez, minus 14. And then the two guys that had a pretty rough weekend outside of Reddick and Larson. Chase Briscoe minus 25. Austin Cindric minus 29. So I'm going to need to get stage points for sure in both of the stages at Talladega. Manufacturer crap aside, they need to get stage points to cut into that gap to give themselves a chance. Also, Ross Chastain looks like he's 14 without facial hair, so hopefully for his sake he grows some facial hair again. Speaking of less facial hair and looking like a dweeb, Aric Almirola won the Kansas Lottery 300. And he wasn't the dominant figure. His teammate Chandler Smith was. Cole Custer and Chandler Smith got into it late in the race, which allowed Almirola on newer tires to go and pass both of them and go out and get that victory. Almirola's second win of 2024. Custer second with NXT on the car, of all things. Then Chandler Smith was third. Connor Zilic finished fourth after starting fourth. Sheldon Creed finished fifth. Buckshot Jones started on pole, finished sixth. Hill seventh. Shane Van Gisbergen eighth. So good job by him. Jesse Love ninth. Riley Herbst 10th. First race, of course, in the playoff. Only, 2 cars in the top 10 are not playoff drivers or playoff cars. Kligerman finished just behind Josh Williams. Josh Williams was 11th. Kligerman was 12th. Sam Mayer 13th. AJ Allmendinger was 17th. Sammy Smith was 22nd. And Justin Allgaier, rare mistake from Justin Allgaier, saw him crash on the backstretch and finish 36th. Relatively clean race. Only 4 cautions for cause. So that there wasn't really a whole lot there. Yeah, I mean, it was really 4, 1, 2, 3 cautions for cause, and then a couple of stage breaks. Debris is whatever. So not a whole lot happened here. There's 5 leaders in this race. Really, the race was mostly around Chandler Smith, Cole Custer, and Aric Almirola, and they finished in the top 3. Not really surprising, Aric Almirola winning in the 20 car. He's the 4th driver they've had this year that's won 2 races, I think, or some crap like that. Because I know Ryan Truex has won twice in that car. I think Christopher Bell has won twice in that car, and don't remember the other one. But Almirola retired from Cup so that he could go and be competitive and win races every week, and when he's been in the car, it's been good for him, I guess. And John Hunter Nemechek, that's the other one. There you go. But yeah, Josh, what are your thoughts on Almirola exorcising the demons of what happened to him many years ago at Kansas when he got hurt there?
Yeah, I mean, good for him to be able to kind of come back to a track where he got hurt and go and get the win, which, another non-contender going out and taking a victory away, but, obviously it's something that can be commendable for him to do, and took the lead away from Cole Custer late in the race and able to go out and get the win. So, he only led 12 laps before the end there, so obviously able to run up front, but Aric Almirola in this car, in this Xfinity series, able to go and get a couple of wins here, so he got to win. He's gotten 2 wins here so far this season in his limited competition here in the Xfinity series, so obviously he can still do it, but we know he's ready to kind of transition into his next career, and still wants to race every now and then in the number 20 car. But got to talk about some of these other contenders as well, like Cole Custer, first playoff race for everybody, and still maintains the lead in the standings. Chandler Smith also competitive there, led the most laps. So obviously Joe Gibbs Racing came out to play here this past weekend in the Xfinity Series, and he's probably hoping or wishing that he got the win given the amount of laps that he led there. Also, Zilic had a good run there and showing what he's going to be able to do next year, and there's a highlight of him having a really good save earlier in the race there, and being able to recover from that and hold on to the car, didn't spin out, didn't do anything like that, still kept it on going and managed a 4th place finish. So shows how good that 88 car really is. Obviously they talked about how well they are, how much speed that they have there in that 88 car, and Zilich, great talent being there, and definitely going to be a contender next year in this series. Creed did well. Austin Hill, SVG actually, finished in the top 10, which, considering his ability on ovals, it's a little surprising to see that already, but it bodes well for him in the playoffs because he's in the good right now. So going into Talladega, which could be a good track for him as well, given how super speedway racing is, and we've seen how he's been able to do on super speedways for the most part. Could lead into the Roval, which sets him up to get into the round of 8 and possibly have a chance to go to the Final Four here at Phoenix. So, which would be crazy to do in his first year as a rookie, and really his only year that he's going to be competing seriously in the Xfinity Series. And to his credit, didn't really understand the playoff system because he said he was studying it and said this is the most overcomplicated thing for a playoff championship format. But he said, yeah, but at least it's exciting and everything. So definitely playing both sides of the card there. But at least he got a good run out of it. But for Justin Allgaier there, crashed early, now could be on the other end. Still only has 1 point, but kind of wishes he had that insurance that he lost there at Bristol last week. So definitely for him, could have been something to have that insurance from being the playoff point leader there, but now 1 point outside of the playoffs right now, as they cut off in the round of 12. But at least he's got some good tracks. He's good at road courses. He's good at super speedways. So not too worried about him there. But some of these other guys that are in that position, like Sam Smith, AJ Allmendinger, who's got that Roval to kind of help him there as well, and Kligerman, who's good at super speedways and all that. All those guys definitely got to be better going in these next 2 races here for the Roval and for Talladega. So it's definitely going to be a interesting first round here in the Xfinity Series as we go through these next couple of weeks. So yeah, looking forward to kind of seeing what they're these guys are able to do, and kind of seeing what can we see with guys like SVG or Allgaier trying to make their way in. Jesse Love, who's good at super speedways too, could he make it into this next round? So yeah, there's a lot of guys here that definitely can make their way. It's a little bit, we talked about the Cup Series being volatile in terms of the things that happen on that side, but I think this series as well is just as volatile in terms of drivers that could make their way into the round of 8 and possibly into the championship 4.
Yeah, plenty to look at here. I mean, with the Xfinity Series, only 1 race in. You brought up some of the guys that are outside looking in and their abilities on super speedways. That could go and flip the script, so to speak. Custer having a lead by 5 over Chandler Smith. Austin Hill is 15 points out of the lead. Those are the only 3 that have like a decent amount of points above the cut. Sam Mears only plus 13, Creed plus 10, Shane Van Gisbergen plus 8, Jesse Love plus 3. He won at Talladega earlier this year. And Riley Herbst is 1 point above Justin Allgaier. Then the guys that are in trouble, as you mentioned, Allmendinger, Kligerman, Smith. Kligerman has won in a truck at Talladega in the past. AJ Allmendinger has had wins on super speedways in the past. So, so that and colleague talks about, putting an emphasis on these type of races. So, graphic on J-Ski has Shane Van Gisbergen in the 98, totally different number. He's going to be in the 88 next year, but Yeah, so we'll see what happens with that. News that came out of this past weekend after Carson Quapple went out and won the Valley Star 300 at Martinsville. Uh, for in late models for Junior Motorsports. Next day, they announce he'll be driving the one car in the Xfinity Series full time next year. So they'll have two rookies in the series in Carson Quapple and Connor Zilic, in the one and the 88 respectively. I guess Sammy Smith's going to be coming back for whatever other than being Michael Andretti 2.0. I don't know what the point of him is, but Dylan Lupton will finish the final 6 races of the season in the 15 car. Instead of them giving Harrison, well, I guess you can't have a cup. They're not allowed to have cup guys in the playoffs, I guess is what it is, or else it would have made a lot of sense to have him drive. Junior Motorsports will also have Bass Pro coming back with what was it, with Carson Quapple. Continue to, and it will be Quapples will prominently feature 23 of the Series 33 events. So the vast majority of his season will be sponsored by Bass Pro Shops on the one car next year. And then, Junebug and Wyatt Miller will have sponsorship from Johnny Morris there. So we'll move forward to the trucks. And it was Corey Heim gets the win on Friday at Kansas. Not really surprising. It wasn't much of a race at all. 3 drivers led, and they're probably the 3 best drivers this season. In Corey Heim, who started 33rd, won Stage 2, led the most laps, and won the race. Christian Eckes, who finished 3rd after starting 3rd, led 19 laps. And then Ty Majeski, who started on pole, won Stage 1, led 51 laps. And those were the 3 leaders. Lane Riggs, trying to sweep the whole entire round, fell a position short on that. Behind Heim, Eckes, Caden Honeycutt gets a top 5 finish, and in turn gets a full-time ride next year for Nice. Dawson Sutton in the Rackley 25 gets a top 5 finish. I wonder what Ty Dillon was doing. If Dawson Sutton can get top 5 finishes. But it doesn't matter. You could suck in trucks and somehow or another get a promotion. Tanner Gray finished 6th. Rajah Caruth 7th. Bailey Curry 8th. So another Nice truck there. Brandon Finger 9th. He'll be driving an Oldsmobile this weekend based on the entry list. And Connor Mozak, who started on the outside front row, finished 10th. Nick Sanchez was 12th. Tyler Ingram 14th. Majeski ended up 15th. Taylor Gray was just behind Connor Daly, finished 18th. And Ben Rhodes finished 22nd. Daniel Dye 27th. So Ben Rhodes and Daniel Dye were eliminated out of the playoff after round 1. So the defending series champion will not be able to become a 3-time series champion. And Daniel Dye, in his one and probably only playoff appearance in the Truck Series, falls out in a whimper. Yeah, but Corey Heim, in the end, the 3 drivers that have been the top 3 drivers in this series showed that yet again. Corey Heim trying to make up for last year, where he basically had, whether you want to say taken the championship taken away from him, or he went and assisted in losing it. Has a 9-point lead on Christian Eckes and has a 24-point lead on Ty Majeski, and goes into this second round with solid momentum for sure, and trying to go and get a Truck Series title without knowing what the heck he's going to be doing next year, because there's a lot of limbo going on there for Corey Heim.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot of limbo for him. I feel like he's probably got he needs to be in the Xfinity series. He's done well in that 26 car, but showing here that going from 33rd and going up front to win the race and leading a ton of laps, 64 laps, that's quite an effort for him, and shows that he's definitely been, or probably is, the best driver in this series currently in the Truck Series. So Corey Heim securing his spot going on to the next round of the playoffs. Definitely think he's going to be a guy that makes it to the Final Four. Would be surprised if he isn't. But now that he's had a year of experience in this, probably knows what to do, especially getting into the Final Four and then running the final race. For Corey Heim, now he has that experience to lean on. So that's just another piece of momentum, I guess, that he's going to carry into this last round and into the championship four there. Through that, Lane Riggs also, I mean, he's been really good lately, winning races, and now finished second here at the truck race, which for him, it was been a up and down year, but they've turned it around. I think that's just another proof that next year they'll be fairly competitive and be able to make it into this playoffs here next year and compete for that championship. So that's a preview for next year. Christian Eckes still continue to run solidly. They'll be able to make it into the championship four also, but it's still running good throughout this playoffs, and he'll be able to, as long as he continues to finish good, he'll have a chance there. Caden Huntingcutt's going to be full-time next year, so that's a good run there for him, finishing fourth and running in the top 10 all day. Tanner Gray had a good race. I think Raja Karuth is the next guy that was in the playoffs, finishing in seventh. So for him, it's interesting because for him, he's been running well in the playoffs so far in the Truck Series, but still has a little ways to go here. He's in fifth place. He's got 8 points to make up on Nick Sanchez. So for him, going to be interesting to see how he does here. The next set of races, Talladega, Homestead, and then running there. So in Martinsville. So definitely for Raja, he's going to have some opportunities here. But maybe Martinsville or Homestead might be his best option. Ran well in Daytona back in the beginning of the year, but it might be different here at Talladega. So Raja very well could be in the Final Four here for the Truck Series, but still on the outside for that cutoff. So it's going to be tough going up against Majeski and Nick Sanchez there. So we'll see what he's able to do, but that's going to be interesting there. Nick Sanchez, of course, finished seventh, finished 12th and starting from seventh, which good for him to get in, but he's going to need better finishes, I think, in this next round here to be able to make it into the playoffs or make it into the Final Four. So yeah, a lot of these guys, ran well, for the most part. But now that we're into the round of 8 for the Truck Series, it's definitely going to be a little bit tougher, especially as the two drivers, Heim and Eckes, have been just outstanding for most of this year. So we'll see what happens. And And you mentioned Ben Rhodes, of course, being one of the guys, which I guess would have been cool for him to get 3 times champion in this Truck Series, which puts him in the realm of guys like Jack Sprague, Ron Hornaday, and so on, Todd Bodine, all those guys. But I don't know if his talent level is quite on that level as those guys. So would have been interesting, but for him, unable, I guess, unfortunate that he was unable to defend his title, which he qualified in 4th, which could have opened up a possibility to get a win. But Ben Rhodes, of course, not making it in, which is unfortunate, but probably for the best, considering who was in the Truck Series this year that's legitimately competitive.
Yeah, and he didn't really have a great season per se, but he made it in, gave himself an opportunity. When push came to shove, he was trying to do a Hail Mary to make it in to the next round, and probably wasn't going to have a good chance of going anywhere, even if he had made it. So we'll see what happens. I mean, obviously for Ben Rhodes, he'll stick around. Sport ain't ever getting rid of him. I mean, that battle, of course, as you mentioned, between Majeski all the way down to Taylor Gray, you're talking about 29 points separation altogether, so, or 21 points actually. 21 points. So that's a lot of volatility in the playoff, and then you have Talladega as the first race. You then have Homestead, which is a pretty straightforward cookie cutter, but it's a rough cookie cutter, and then you have Martinsville. So we'll see what happens there when that time comes for Homestead and also Martinsville. Be remiss if we don't go and talk about the circumstance of this lawsuit that came out today. I mean, obviously there was the talk of the issue with the charters, and then them NASCAR basically putting a squeeze on all the teams, and all but 2 teams signing the new charter agreement. 2311 Front Row Motorsports. Come to find out, they were working on an antitrust lawsuit and dropped the hammer, naming not only NASCAR itself, but also Jim France, based on different pieces of information there. Anti-competitive and exclusionary practices to enrich themselves at the expense of the premier stock car racing teams. It's like the to accept, take it or leave it economic conditions. And I mean, it's true. I mean, we can look at it in certain ways in terms of Denny Hamlin and how outspoken he has been. Bob Jenkins being a businessman and a owner of plenty of franchises in terms of restaurants for Yum Brands. Jeff Gordon going on the download and saying that they haven't made money in years, and Hendrick Motorsports is considered the Yankees of NASCAR. That sounds like a really bad business model when they have viability for cars. They have all these different business things. Kyle Larson with HendrickCars.com, they're making more money that way than they have in Hendrick's made in a while. But even then, they're not making money. And if Hendrick isn't making money, then I know most of these other teams aren't making money. So, I mean, it's unprecedented. They talked about it with Talladega because of the strike that took place prior to the first race there. I was listening to one of I think it was from the Download or Scene Vault podcast, where I think it was Dave Marcus, to Stapleton. It was Stapleton 42 and Dave Marcus talking about his old shop, and he brought up the fact that he went with the big guys and sat out that race at Talladega because he was a rookie coming into essentially he was running his first full season, and he went and did it, and he actually got the blessing from Big Bill to do it because he knew that Dave Marcus was a good, solid racer, and he was trying to make it in down south after coming from Wisconsin. And the only way that he was going to be able to do that is if he had the respect of the likes of Mr. The King, David Pearson, Bobby Allison, Cale Yarborough, et cetera, et cetera. But you look at all these things, you think about NASCAR, and I mean, what they did to Tim Richmond in lieu of his AIDS diagnosis, the means by which they went to basically force him out of racing, using whatever false tests or whatever the crap that they pulled then. You think about what happened with Jeremy Mayfield and how Brian France basically decided to use the family power to go and ruin his life, or try to. Those are just a couple of examples there. And right now, you look at it's Michael Jordan. So, I mean, you're talking about arguably one of the greatest, if not the greatest athlete ever lived, who is an investor in this sport, a NASCAR fan for many years, a businessman through and through, in the sense that he has made more money hand over fist with all of his sneakers and merch. And he's looking at this business, and he's a former owner of an NBA franchise, first African-American major franchise owner, as a majority owner. And he's looking at this, and it doesn't make sense. Denny Hamlin also agrees. That's his partner. And then you have all of the people that are involved with that organization. You have Bob Jenkins, who has been at this for 2 decades plus in the series, went from being a start and park field filler to being an A-level Ford team and getting Penske's support, and they don't like what's going on here. And he owns 3 charters now because he bought one off of Stewart-Haas like the day they said they were closing. He went and bought one of those charters. He has got, it sounds like he's going to get the number 4 for one of his cars, for Noah Gragson. You're going to have the number 34, which has been their signature car. And then you have one other car. Who knows? Maybe it'll be 14. Or it might be the 38. Who knows? Whichever way it may be. They have 3 cars, and they have 3 young drivers likely driving for that organization. And then, of course, with 2311, there was thoughts that one of those Stewart-Haas charters would go that way. We know that as it stands right now, I think one of them's Front Row, one of them is Trackhouse, and then you have one of them is staying with Gene Haas to go and race with Cole Custer. We don't know where the other one's going as of yet. So as it stands, Kessler, the lawyers, said that they would run open if the injunction doesn't go through, the preliminary injunction. If they're pretty confident that they'll win that injunction, and then they'll be chartered, at least 5 charters in that sense. But otherwise, we have to see what happens with that. But it's unprecedented, Josh, to see NASCAR fighting in the courts in this way, and you're having pushback from probably the only guy that could talk about being in the same kind of stratosphere as Fat Felon in terms of money. Somebody probably has as much or more money in Michael Jordan. And you've got 2 of the 3 major manufacturers involved in this too. No Chevy teams went this way, which of course it makes sense because they're all whatever. But a major Ford effort, and then Toyota's 1A team going off script here is huge news in the world of NASCAR.
Yeah, it's definitely huge news to see this, especially, Michael Jordan being the name most prevalent in this, going out and launching a lawsuit against NASCAR, which I don't think it was surprising to see that they are going into a lawsuit, because I feel like this was highly, they pretty much said, not that they said that they would, but I feel like this was heavily implied that this would probably end up happening, to go into a lawsuit against the sport, after they denied their charters or refused to sign the charters. So there's definitely been, a lot, like that you said, with how profitable this sport actually is, how things are run, and obviously they're alleging that, or claiming that NASCAR is a monopoly, which I think that's 100% right. It's kind of been acknowledged that NASCAR, at least under the Bill France Jr. era, was run as a benevolent dictatorship. Go back to, even it's fitting that this is happening as Talladega is coming up, because you go back to the very first Talladega race, and a lot of the drivers felt that it was unsafe, and they tried to unionize, and then NASCAR said, screw you guys, we're running the race anyways, and Richard Brickhouse won the first Talladega race there. I think somebody else said that they actually won, but Richard Brickhouse scored as the first Talladega win, after drivers like even Mr. the King himself, Richard Petty, didn't race in that race because they thought it was not safe enough. But just another anecdote there, and how NASCAR has run things. But obviously it's been up and down NASCAR over the years, and how we always talk about selective enforcement of the rules in the sport, and talking about the procedural things there, but just the costs alone. Racing isn't a profitable sport of any means, but they obviously are trying to figure out a way to be profitable in this, and change the ways. Saw Larry McReynolds talk, I guess it was a quote from him on the radio, saying like, well, why are teams that have only been here for 4 years trying to go out and change the way things have been done for the past 76 years? And that's probably the most bootlicker comment that I've ever heard in my life in this sport. But I think they have a point, that 2311 has a point, not Larry McReynolds, that things need to be changed. They talked about how there's lots of different points in the lawsuit. I need to read this, but one of the things that they mentioned was how the parts are all, NASCAR's dictated all the parts that they're supposed to use. They've also dictated that you're supposed to only have 7 cars, and then if the car has been in a crash or anything, NASCAR will deem whether it's allowed to be reused or not if it isn't. So that's part of it as well there. But obviously, like you said, Jeff Gordon's admitted that they haven't made a profit in years. Dale Jr., keeps talking about that it doesn't make sense for him to go in the Cup Series, that he would lose. It's a loss of money here. So definitely, for the biggest star in the sport, think that it's not making money. Obviously, now you have a guy, the greatest basketball player of all time, and Denny Hamlin going out on a limb here and trying to go along with the FRM team, going out here and trying to launch a lawsuit and trying to go up against NASCAR. And a lot of people think that NASCAR will force them to settle out of court, that they'll end up winning this because they always seem to win their lawsuits and stuff. But I don't know about this one because, like you said, the lawyer in this, Jeremy Kessler, he's the lawyer that led the effort to enact free agency in the NFL. He's behind the lawsuit or the case that led to the NIL being formed and led to women's soccer having equal pay. So I don't know if NASCAR is going to win this one. We'll see, but they've definitely got a really good lawyer that can go in there and argue all of these points. So I think there's a good chance. We'll see what the outcome is, what the consequence of this will be. But currently they're trying to, one of the things that they're trying to do is be able to race in 2025 and still hold the charter without losing it until this case is settled. So we'll see how this goes. But yeah, it's definitely wild when you see ESPN say that Michael Jordan is suing NASCAR. So definitely a lot that could happen here, and certainly the sport definitely needs to change, and hopefully something good comes out of this.
Yeah, definitely. And if it goes to trial, or if they do decide and this goes into discovery, it's probably not very good for NASCAR, similar to what happened with the NFL. There was the NFL situation recently, also with golf, between PGA and Live. There's different things going on with some of these leagues, but the France family getting put through the courts, I think, in this day and age, even if you're a bootlicking person, like even Larry Mack or one of these journalists that want to keep their hard card, it's going to be damning, I would assume. Okay, yeah, so car changes. I mentioned Daryl and Amanda Wallace, Bex Hayden Wallace brought into the world, so congrats to them. And then for all the people that are affected by the hurricane, our thoughts are with you, and hoping for the best in this recovery, and trying to be able to get through that. Plus, of course, for the people who lost their lives and their families, our thoughts are with them as well. But in trying to be in a more positive, of course, even in a tough time, the car changes, I was looking at them. They talked about it. Basically, long story short, they're trying to keep the car down, Josh, and by doing certain aerodynamic changes, they're putting kind of like a sail on the one roof flap. They're putting the roof rail is being extended. They're putting a metal piece on the rocker panel, trying to make it so that you have to go much faster for liftoff. How effective that'll be is to be determined, since they figure out ways to wreck these race cars at super speedways in different manners every single time. But I'll go and defer to you, Josh, on this. We've been at this since 1987, long before you were alive, and I was a very, very small child when Bobby Allison hit the catch fence at Talladega with an unrestricted car, and they put on restrictor plates and said that that was a temporary solution. And essentially, we've had them ever since. Um, Keeping cars down has always been a ongoing issue. They never really have found a full-on solution with this car and the way it's built and with the under tray and that whole thing. Do these changes make a difference? Are they really going to make that much of a difference? Is it a higher likelihood of the car staying down, or are we just kind of spitballing here because that's the way NASCAR seems to do things now?
I don't know. I mean, I have seen the changes, but we're not gonna be able to know until we find out. That's the bottom line. We're gonna, they say it'll keep the car on the ground, it'll disrupt the airflow so that air doesn't lift the car into the air and flip it, but we're not gonna know until Sunday, when they race, or, even they're not gonna practice, they're only gonna qualify, so, we will not know how this will go until then. So, would love to see it succeed, but like I said, we're not going to find out until somebody gets backwards and then gets into a situation where we might see a flip. So, don't know. I mean, I lean towards spitballing, but I mean, I imagine that they had to do some type of study to figure out how, what to do and change the airflow as a car is spinning. But yeah, it's something that can't really predict or guarantee until we see it.
Yeah, I really don't know. When it comes to super speedway racing, I've always put it out there that I've never really been a fan. So, they're still going to crash into each other. So it's a case of how they run and you get the kind of pushes that they're going to have with this car. Will they really keep the cars on the ground or not? It's really to be determined, but I don't have very high hopes for it. Going into IndyCar, there's definitely been a lot of news and different items going on with that. You have the open wheel Indy. They don't have so IndyCar. You had test. Okay, so okay, that's cool for Miles Rowe. Yeah, so I mean, you had testing going on for some rookies. You had the IP stolen for Ray Hall Letterman being investigated by the FBI. You had charter system being made with Renus VK getting dumped out of his ride at ECR very late in the game, which seems very much like the Hallman George family. And then Alexander Rossi getting a full-time ride with the team along with Christian Rasmussen. So they'll have a different full lineup next year. And, we have other things there. I mean, there's plenty going on in the world of IndyCar racing. I mean, Michael Andretti will not be the majority owner of the team named after him, a team that has existed for going back into the early 90s as Forsyth Green Racing, became Andretti Green Racing in 2003. So he's been an owner since for 21 years. And now, whatever reason it may be, though most likely it's because of how outspoken he's been about Roger Penske and Penske Entertainment's management of the IndyCar series. A lot to digest there. Josh, I mean, the charters basically give the teams that are already there some sort of kind of foundation. They're selling it the same way as NASCAR did way back in 2016. And it's ironic we're talking about charters of NASCAR, and now we're talking about IndyCar charters. Downsizing for Ganassi, downsizing for a couple teams. But in the grand scheme of things, 25 guaranteed charters. And then there's 22 spots for the leader circle or whatever. And then you have 27 cars on the grid or some shit like that. So essentially that includes Prema, Callum Ilott, who's going to be one of the two drivers. There'll be an open car, and then they'll be trying to run for one of the spots next year in the charter, or in 2026 for charters. So we'll see what happens with that accordingly, or for leader circle money. But where do you want to go with it? You can kind of take whichever angle you want to go with on that, Josh.
Well, I think the biggest fear was the charter agreement was how would it affect the Indianapolis 500, and at least they've kept that open and allowed that to be an open race for everybody. But I mean, I guess it's kind of a wait and see deal. I think with this, I'm still kind of trying to understand the charter agreement in IndyCar. If it's anything similar to NASCAR, then I guess we will find out in 8 years if somebody in IndyCar will get sued by a team. So we'll see. Yeah, I mean, maybe they sue Roger Penske for collusion or something, but or I guess the Holman George family as well. So yeah, that's definitely something to consider there, considering how well it's working in NASCAR. But I guess Penske, I mean, I guess maybe is the one that's doing this because they already have the system in NASCAR and is able to influence how that would work in IndyCar. But now we have that, so definitely a interesting deal there, and guaranteeing spots for certain teams and leaving the Indy 500 open for sure. But definitely might downsize the field a little bit overall, but I don't know if that's too big of a deal, because I actually feel like 27 might just be too much to have, especially at some of these street courses for sure, like St. Petersburg and Long Beach. Definitely think maybe 27 IndyCars is a little too much there. But yeah, that's interesting to see them basically kind of imitate NASCAR in terms of how they're trying to guarantee some kind of security here for all the teams. But we'll see how that ends up working out for them.
Yeah, I think that's the main key in terms of, and then when you're talking about growth, are you really trying to promote growth in the series? I think they're trying to look for new investors, and with the next gen car, even with how restrictive it may be, you had Trackhouse, you had Colleague, and you had 2311 all come in to the sport, but there isn't anybody else. In IndyCar, you haven't had anybody really come in to the series. I guess Meyer Shank, but I mean, I think Michael Shank had been in sports car racing. Denny got into IndyCars, so getting Jim Meyer as his partner has made him a more viable outfit to the point where now they're a Ganassi affiliate. But will it really make the racing better? Will there be more quality because of it? They put a driver limit. You can only have 3 drivers in a car for the year. So that'll prevent Dale Coyne's musical chairs. But we'll see with that. The whole Ray Hall, Letterman, Lanigan thing with the IP being stolen, they were god awful on the ovals. So if you're telling me that they're stealing intel from Andretti and they still run that bad, then they must really suck. Ray Hall, Letterman, Lanigan needs at least 1 driver and probably 2. 1 funded driver. The high V car is still open, so that'll probably be one of the better ride options that are out there. Graham Rahal ended up opening a new dealership or new building for all of his business entities, so that was interesting. Michael Andretti leaving ownership, they're saying that it was planned, but it seems convenient after he's been outspoken about how Penske has run the show, the poor promotion, the lack of communication with drivers, teams, etc. And then, like you have him and Zach Brown, who are close, they're friends, they are business partners. Them both coming out, and really speaking out against IndyCar. You talk about monopolies. You have the owner of the series owns the biggest track, the track that matters most to the whole entire series, and owns 3 cars in the series, and owns the engine and the manufacturer of the engines, one of the 2 engines. So, I mean, we're talking about collusion, we're talking about monopolies. It's a lot. There's a lot the same with IndyCar to NASCAR, more than they want to believe. So we'll see what happens. Plenty of things going on with that. You have, race in Frisco or wherever the hell, Jerry World around their stadium. Another street course around an NFL stadium. They did it in Houston years ago. They did it in Denver. They've done it at the Meadowlands. It's not an oval. It's not on the Northeast, which has been completely neglected. Really, in multiple motorsports, it's been neglected. But IndyCar losing out on a perfect opportunity to be at Pocono or be at New Hampshire or be somewhere that would actually be worthwhile, instead of, making street courses around football stadiums. So we'll see what happens. Before we move on to NFL, be remiss if we don't talk about Daniel Riccardo and his unceremonious end to his Formula One career. He was very emotional during the weekend at Singapore. He was sent out on fresh tires to steal a fastest lap from Lando Norris, which then gave a path for how many points that Fish Lips would need to go and retain his world championship. But I mean, even with that, Daniel Ricciardo was a great, character, one of the biggest smiles. Race 257 starts in Formula One with 8 wins, 3 pole positions, 17 fastest and 32 podiums, 17 fastest laps. And so that is really, I mean, a solid career. Plenty of people that would take what he was able to do in Formula One, even at his worst. But he doesn't get to leave on his own accord. He doesn't get to leave, going in on his own terms, or be able to retire for his fans to go and see him coming into the U.S. Grand Prix, of all things, considering that's one of his favorite races. His best year, honestly, I mean, based on points, it was 2016. He had one win that year and one pole with 4 fastest laps and 8 podiums. In 2014 was his breakout with 3 wins, 1 fastest lap, 8 podiums. Those were the 2 best years of his Formula One career. He won once in 17, twice in 2018, and then at Monza for McLaren in 2021. Losing a character like him stinks. All the great content that we got from Daniel Riccardo over the years. Maybe F1 and Sky hires him to work on TV. That would be a great thing for the series, but doubt they have the foresight for that. But I mean, when I heard the details, and we've kind of seen the writing on the wall for a while, Josh, but losing one of the only people in Formula One that's a character really sucks.
Yeah, it really sucks, and kind of sucks the way that it all went down there. It's definitely something that we shouldn't have seen him be that emotional like that, not knowing what he went through there. But the dumped by the team like that so they can keep Liam Lawson. Yeah, it's he knew for 2 weeks beforehand, and then they went ahead and canned him there without really kind of letting him know it was going to be his last race. That's not how it should be. So unfortunate for Daniel Ricciardo to end his career in Formula One like this, and would have liked to have seen him at least go out with some dignity, but it seems like they can't allow him to do that, and now his career is over. And I mean, he wasn't running that well, but it still one of the more engaging personalities on the grid, and being able to go out and get a final point there on the fastest lap still shows how capable he is. But for him, it was definitely an unfortunate news development, and now we get to see what he does in this I guess so-called retirement here. If he decides to go into other series, could he attempt NASCAR? Could he attempt like an Xfinity race or something like that to get his feet wet? Or could he go into other series like sports car racing, or like even IndyCar? Could he get into that? Will he be able to get back into Formula One? Will somebody like in a year or two who needs a driver, could he be on their short list? But there are plenty of younger guys in Formula One that will probably be more available and ready to jump into Formula One at that time than Daniel Ricciardo. But hate to see it end like that for him, especially considering what we saw from him over the years, considering he was still able to get a win, ended up being his final win at Monza in 21, and then coming back to the series last year and having some good runs during that, like at Mexico City last year. But yeah, really unfortunate that he won't be able to continue on for the rest of the season here and yield way to Liam Lawson.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have anything against Liam Lawson. I honestly thought he should have gotten the call for this ride at the start of 2024. He is talented. One of the and when you look at Red Bull's history of treating drivers, it's not surprising that's what they did to the guy that arguably is the most successful guy who was developed by Red Bull, because lest anyone think that Sebastian Vettel and Fish Lips were developed by Red Bull, they got Sebastian Vettel from BMW, and he was working at BMW Sauber when he was poached by Red Bull and Toro Rosso. And then Fish Lips was racing in junior formulas and was on the radar or in the cusp with Mercedes before Red Bull went and picked him up to go and put him in Formula One at 16 or whatever it was, and 17, I mean, and then full time. And we have what we have, but Lawson has shown the talent, potential, speed, but that team is not good. They haven't really been great this year. They never really ever have been. I think the only time they really were good was when Vettel was driving for them. Even when they had Carlos Sainz and Fish Lips, they weren't that viable. So, and they've had plenty of other guys that over their career have went out and won Formula E championships, have won World Endurance Championships, et cetera, but in Formula One, they got punted out by One-Eyed Marco and Karen Horner, and one of the many reasons why I don't like Red Bull, and I never will. Just the way that they treat drivers, and this is yet the latest example of that. For what happened to Daniel. But, I mean, we'll see what he does. I mean, I think TV is probably a likely scenario if he wants to do it. I also would figure that probably could dovetail and run some different racing series, whether it's supercars back in Australia, whether it's World Endurance Championship or IMSA. I think that would be really cool to bring Daniel Riccardo to IMSA. Have him at least run the Enduros here. I think that would be great. I mean, I don't think they'd be able to call him in next week for Petit Le Mans, but at least for the Rolex 24, it would be huge to bring him over here for sure. Yeah, so we will move on to the NFL in week 4. And Josh, you opened the show talking about the Cannonball Run, and something that's also running is the clock on whether Trevor Lawrence is going to stay the starter, maybe, of the Jacksonville Jaguars. There's rumors of thinking about benching him, but I wouldn't think that that's really a possibility, because it's, when you're talking about who his backup is, it was CJ Beathard last year, and now it's Mac Jones. So, I mean, there's other issues you got going on down there. I'm probably not going to have a coach soon. But, I mean, what are your takeaways? I mean, your fantasy team is doing well, at least in our league. But the Jacksonville Jaguars have not decided to show up so far in 2024.
No, they haven't. Yeah, Trevor Lawrence isn't getting benched anytime soon, unless for injury, or they pull him out of the game because it gets out of hand, or the other end where if they were to get their shit together, then they, go on a big time scoring run and the game's already out of hand for the other team, and then they wouldn't need to play him. But there are 275 million reasons to not bench Trevor Lawrence. So, yeah, if he got benched, that means he's really bad, and that would also be pretty damning for Doug Pederson. there, and I think he'd probably get immediately fired if that happened, because that'd be really embarrassing to see. And also, you're basically anchored to Trevor Lawrence for the next few seasons anyway. I don't know if there's a way you could even get out of that contract after this season, or even next. And I'm pretty sure there's no trade clause there, so it would be basically impossible. And I think if they did release him, they would be in salary cap hell. So that's another reason to not release him there or anything, but or to get rid of him after the season. So yeah, I don't think that's happening anytime soon. But Doug Pederson, maybe we'll launch him on a cannonball and get him out of here, because they said there's still he basically blamed it on the players. He said we can't make the plays. Coach is coach. We don't play or make the plays. And I mean, I guess he's technically right there. It's technically true. They're not the ones playing the game, right? But I mean, it just everything that I see there is, I mean, it's just a bunch of individuals that play. They're not playing as a team. They're a team of individuals that are on the field together, but they're not working cohesively. There's no identity and there's no continuity in anything. So it's a coaching issue there for sure. And we've already been on this ad nauseum about Doug Pederson and the Jaguars offense and everything, which they were in the game, which I mean I didn't even see because I was in the car, but they were in the game and they figure out a way to lose. So guess it sucks or whatever, but now they go against the Colts this weekend in the throwback era here, uniforms, and then going into that the throwback era stuff, if they did lose, then it would suck even more and be more embarrassing. So the fact of the matter is that Doug Pederson shouldn't be the coach of the Jaguars after this year, and anything else is undesirable, I guess. But I mean, I have so much faith in them that I actually traded for the Houston Texans defense in my work fantasy league, which didn't work out because they didn't play or they didn't score that many points. But the thinking was there is that that they would score enough points. And my friend that I traded with, he was like, "Aren't you a Jaguars fan?" And I said, "Yes, but I want to see the end of Doug Pederson." So I did that. Although the trade itself didn't work out, but that was the theory behind it. Fantasy wise, did well across the board for the most part. Stroud had a good game, of course. Marvin Harrison had a good game. Ayuk had a good game. Well, not really, but I thought he would do better there, but didn't have a good game as I thought. But Jonathan Taylor had a good game. Derrick Henry had an excellent game. Brian Robinson, solid game. Geno Smith, high scoring game as well. So defense, Xavier McKinney did well. Aiden Hutchinson did not post a statistic for whatever reason, and didn't have anything there. Well, I guess he's gonna be in a well, I was looking at the statistics there, but yeah, I didn't record a statistic on the Monday night game. Quincy Williams did well. He's a good linebacker there. So yeah, we go into our fantasy league here, and going into that. So this week, so looking forward to our matchup, which I got to make some adjustments to my roster and being able to do that. So yeah, we'll see how it goes this week in our fantasy league, but looking forward to our matchups as always.
Yeah, definitely. We always seem to have tight matchups, as I said. So when it comes to my fantasy teams, it was 1-3 I mentioned. In my league, I was able to beat Matt pretty good. He texted me after Sunday night or on Monday night. He said, asked me, do you think that Tyreek Hill can score 100 points since he was down that much? And I said, yeah, sure, if Dan Marino comes out of retirement. But Dan Marino didn't come out of retirement on Monday. We had Tennessee lose Will Levis after he turned the ball over yet again. And Mason Rudolph, of all people, is his backup, and he led the Tennessee Tuxedos to a big win on Monday night. So that was good for them. And, in terms of division, of course, for Josh, and not so great. Indianapolis brings in Joe Flacco after yet another Anthony Richardson injury, and they're able to kind of do some damage. Jonathan Taylor gets hurt, and Trey Sermon, the former 49er, is somebody that's in play. Yeah, I mean, in terms of 49ers, 2 straight losses needed to win at home against the Patriots, and it really was never in doubt. Brock Purdy continues to play like an MVP favorite that I think he is, no matter what people that talk about the NFL want to say, because they're haters. The thing is with him, I look at some of the other players. I mean, you look at Jawan Jennings; he's played out of his mind, and he's playing really well. While the guys that get paid like the big bucks on the wide receiver side, Debo and of course Brandon Ayuk, haven't played so well. The offensive line's been pretty shitty, especially from the center to the right side. The center and the right guard have been god awful. Dominic Pooney, great draft pick. Rare instance where they actually draft somebody good. And they go like in that area, and they and he's going to be somebody I think they can anchor on that right side at least for a year or two before Trent Williams officially calls it quits. Defensive line, Nicholas John Bosa actually had a good game. He was there and he was getting into everything. Some of the other defensive linemen, I think, with the injury to what the hell's his name? I'm forgetting his name now, but the guy they paid for last year from Philadelphia. I'm forgetting his name. It shows active. I have to go and put that way. I'll go and look at it. Yeah, Javon Hargrave. There you go. So he's out, but it allowed guys like Malik Collins, Yetur Gross-Matos, Jordan Elliott, Okwanu, and Kevin Givens all to have more opportunities there, and they were able to make them work. Linebacker, I mean, Fred Warner's playing. He got a pick 6. He's been playing great, but then he got hurt. So I'm concerned about that. But, we'll see what happens there. A lot of injuries for the Niners. McCaffrey's not going to be back for a while with bilateral tendonitis in both of his Achilles, meaning he has it in both legs. So it's taken all this time. I mean, he played a year and a half with the 49ers before he had his first major injury. And so I gotta say that's pretty good considering his track record in Carolina, but it's unfortunate. Devondre Campbell sucks balls. I get why Green Bay got rid of him. Basically, the Niners radio team is calling plays, and they're like, yeah, they're going to go target against Devondre Campbell, or they're going to go target against whatever Jair Brown, because of he's not great in pass protection, but he's more of a run stopper, which is the same thing as Talanoa Hufanga, who came back the week before and was garbage. I love Talanoa Hufanga, but he sucked against Minnesota and promptly went back on the injured list and wasn't active last week. The Mooney Ward is looking more like the guy that Kansas City got rid of, and he needs to play better too. But it all goes back to the same things. The same issues the Niners have had for years continue to exist with the line, with the offensive line, and also with the secondary. And so, yeah, I mean, it is what it is, but the Niners won. They have a divisional matchup, game of the week, against the Arizona Cardinals to get to 3-2. And get themselves in the mix in terms of the division. After they go and play that game, try to go back here. I don't know why. Yeah, okay, there you go. Yeah. So after Arizona, they'll go and play. They'll play against Seattle at Seattle on a Thursday night, so they'll have a short week. And so it's an opportunity in the span of 4 days to go and get to 4-2, get into leadership, go and lead the division, and have 10 days to prepare for Kermit the Frog and the Chiefs. They'll also be home for both of those for the next 2 games for both Kansas City and then the Cowgirls, which will be on National Tight End Day. So that'll be George Kittle's national holiday before they go on the bye. My team and the team in my league did really well. Outside of that, had losses. Basically middle of the road with all of my other teams, unfortunately, but we're trying to make moves. A lot of guys out there trying to go and get those kind of game changers to go and possibly fill out my bench and give me an opportunity. So we'll see what happens with those guys. So yeah, we'll get into the GSP roundup here. First, we'll start with the Grand Prix of Indonesia for MotoGP in the ongoing battle between Jorge Martin and Paco Bagnaia for the World Championship. Jorge Martin gets the victory in the race over Pedro Acosta by 1.404 seconds. Paco Bagnaia finishes third. Franco Morbidelli fourth. Marco Bezzecchi fifth. So the top 5 all Ducatis. Maverick Vinales best of the rest. Fabio Quartararo ran really well. Yamaha's making a lot of gains here. Now finished 7th. Honda with Johan Zarco got a 9th place finish. So positive for the 2 Japanese manufacturers after being trounced by the European manufacturers for the last few years. Raul Fernandez finished 10th for Trackhouse. Only 12 riders finished the race. 4 riders crashed out on lap 1. So it was a pretty insane race there. So the point standings, they're heading to Motegi this coming weekend for the Grand Prix of Japan. The go in the standings. So right now, the Jorge Martin has a 21-point lead over Pecco Bagnaia. Enea Bastianini has a 3-point lead over Marc Marquez for third in points. Pedro Acosta has an 8-point lead on his future teammate, Brad Binder, for fifth in his rookie season. Then you have Maverick Vinales there, 19 points back behind Acosta and 11 behind Brad Binder there. So, and then there's a big drop off to Alicia Spargo, Marco Bezzecchi, and Fabio Di Gianantonio. basically you have 5 riders there: Espargaro, Bezzecchi, DG, Antonio, Alex Marquez, Franco Morbidelli, all separated by 7 points. So we'll see how that all goes. In Moto 2, the race in Indonesia, go back there. The race that Aaron Canet gets the victory over Ayagura and Alonso Lopez. Felipe Aldeguer, Darren Binder, Joe Roberts gets a 6th. And then Manny Ramirez, his teammate, was 10th. Trying to see anybody else. Yeah, no. So we'll go through that. And then the standings heading to Japan this weekend in Moto 2. Ayagura has a huge points lead, 42 points over Sergio Garcia's teammate. Aaron Canet is up to 3rd, tied with Alonso Lopez. Good battle, basically, between that's 20 points separating Garcia and Felipe Aldeguer. Joe Roberts is in that mix as well in 5th. So possibility to finish 2nd in points, Joe Roberts, but he will not be moving up. You have Aldeguer, who's going to be moving up. I think Ayagura's moving up. And next year into MotoGP. So that's unfortunate for Joe Roberts. I really thought the Trackhouse would give him a shot, but I guess that's better. There's a better plan in place, I guess, in the mind of Justin Marks and the whole group that runs that team. The NHRA teams were at Gateway this past weekend before they take a couple weeks off. And the results at Gateway were as follows for the Midwest Nationals. In Pro Stock Motorcycle, Gage Herrera gets the victory there. Dallas Glenn in Pro Stock. Jack Beckman in John Force's car gets the win in Funny Car, and then Tony Schumacher gets the win in Top Fuel. It seems like it's a Don Schumacher kind of weekend. What a shocker. Wow, Bradley Pinion. Okay. In terms of, another great name from back in the day with Pro Stock, Mark Powick won the Factory Stock Showdown title this past weekend. So congrats to him. Aaron Stanfield won in Factory X. He had won in 2 classes at the U.S. Nationals a few weeks back. So credit to him. Get more detailed results if this thing will load. Or maybe we'll do it that way. That might be the better way. In Proma, they didn't. Yeah, Stan Shelton got the win over Mason Wright. I'm trying to remember Stan Shelton. I think he drives a Ford, so it's nice. Somebody that isn't in a Chevy wins for once. Herrera had a single in the first round, beat John Hall in the second. Hector Arana in a really close race in the semis, and then beat Chase Van Zandt in the final. Van Zandt from the number 6 spot beat Chris Bostic, Richard Gadsden, and Gino Scali on his way to the final. Matt Smith got knocked out by Scali in the second round, so Scali helping out the Vance and Hines team to go and knock out their number 1 competitor. And Dallas Glenn continues his dominance in Pro Stock for a good amount of this season. Glenn came from the number 2 spot, beat Camry Caruso, Mason McGahey, teammate Greg Anderson, and then Aaron Stanfield to get the victory. Stanfield from the number 4 spot beat David Quadra, Matt Hartford, Erica Enders, who broke and was the number 1 qualifier. And then let's move to Funny Car, which was Jack Beckman, as I mentioned. So his first win since coming back to racing and taking over for John Force. So a big deal for the John Force Racing team as well. Waiting on this thing to load. Of course it's going to load. Beckman over Ron Capps. Beckman from the number 4 spot beat J.R. Todd, Daniel Wilkerson, teammate and likely champion Austin Prock in the semis, and then Ron Capps in the final, former teammates at Don Schumacher Racing. Where is it? Ron Capps started and got number 3 qualifier, beat Buddy Hull, Bobby Bodie, and Blake Alexander on his way to the final. And then in Top Fuel, Tony Schumacher gets the victory. It's like throwing back. Started in the number 2 spot, beat Julie Natus, Antron Brown, Sean Reed, and then Steve Torrance in the final. Torrance from the number 8 spot beat Schumacher's teammate Ida Zederstrom, TJ Zizzo, who was the number 1 qualifier in the second round, Justin Ashley in the semis after Torrance was like dead late on the tree. Ashley had issues on his run and then ended up losing there in the final. The standings heading off to Dallas. Antron Brown is a 34-point lead over Justin Ashley. 60 points on Sean Langdon in third, 87 on defending champion Doug Coletta, and 88 on Steve Torrance. Tony Schumacher, with his victory, moves up to 6th, 103 points behind, so essentially 5 rounds. Brittany Force, or Clay Millican, Brittany Force, Tony Stewart, and Billy Torrance round out the top 10. Tony is only ahead of 3 guys in this playoff right now, so not a great playoff for him in his first appearance. Austin Prock in Funny Car has a 105-point lead on the duo of John Force and Jack Beckman, and 159 on Bob Tasca, and 194 on Ron Capps. Hagen 5th. It's pretty 5-round lead with 3 races to go outside of him failing to qualify, which of course happened with Doug Coletta at the U.S. Nationals. Austin Prock is likely to become a Funny Car champion with his family working on the car. In Pro Stock, Glenn has a 31-point lead on Aaron Stanfield and a 90-point lead on Erica Enders, 116 to Greg Anderson, and that's really where the battle is there with 3 races, 12 total rounds of racing, and you got 1.5 at Pomona for the World Finals. Herrera leading in Pro Stock Motorcycle by 34 over Matt Smith, 65 over his teammate Richard Gadsden. Hector Arana Jr. 137 behind, Chase Van Zandt 156. So, I mean, really, it's a 3-rider race. The 2 Vance and Hines Suzuki's versus Matt Smith and the Buell, to see if they can go make something happen there. Well, they'll be in Dallas in a couple weeks. World Superbikes were in Aragon for their most recent race, and the results were Andrea Iannone getting the victory in race 1, and Alvaro Bautista getting wins in the Super Pole and race 2. Toprak Raskatlioku finishes second in each race, Garrett Gerloff got a podium in race 1, so credit to him. Nicola Balega finished third in the Super Pole and race 2. Toprak Raskatlioglu is 39 points ahead of Balega, and that's really where the championship is. Alvaro Bautista is in third. Danilo Petrucci, Alex Lowe's round out the top 5. A great battle points-wise between Locatelli, Iannone, and Vandermark, separated by 2 points. Garrett Gerloff moves up to 9th in points, 9 points ahead of Remy Gardner, who's in 10th. So that'll go down to the wire. The 2 Honda teammates, Iker Lackawanna and Javi Vieje, are separated by a point themselves. And so we'll see what happens with those guys. Here, the next race for them will be in Estoril in a couple weeks' time. There's only 2 rounds left of the season, Estoril and then Jerez, back-to-back weekends. So that'll be interesting to see how this championship ends up. If Toprak Raskatlioglu can get another championship, and this time on a BMW. And the final thing will be Rally Chile for the WRC the past weekend, and the results there for that race saw Cali Rovampera get another victory. Of course, he's not running the full season. Efren Evans finishes in second, Tanak in third, Thierry Neuville fourth, and Adrian Fourmeau in fifth. And that's, so, and the standings there, the championship standings moving forward with only 2 rounds to go in the championship. Thierry Neuville has a 30-point lead. 29-point lead on Tanak. Sebastian Ogier, who's missed 3 rounds this year, is in third, 12 points behind Tanak. Efren Evans is in fourth, 5 points behind Ogier. Adrian Fourmeau is fifth. Cali Rovampera with a, third? Is that his third victory of the year? Is now in sixth, basically by himself there. So we'll see what happens. They'll be racing the next race at the calendar. We'll see them, the Central European Rally, Austrian, Central base of these 3 nations. So Austria, Czech, and Germany. So that's an interesting deal there. So we'll see what happens there in 3 weeks' time with that. So we move forward, and we'll get into the tripleheader at Talladega this coming weekend, and all 3 entry lists for this. The races are up. The Love's RV Stop 225 at Talladega will race actually on Friday afternoon. That's interesting. I thought it was Saturday, but run Saturday early, but instead they're running it on Friday afternoon. 38 teams for 38 teams for 36 spots. You have Sawalich in the 1, Keith McGee in the 02, Corey Roper back driving his own 04, Norm Walls, Norm Benning getting trying to make a start there, Connor Zilich racing the Austin Hatcher Foundation number 7 for Spire. Initially, the entry list had Grant Infinger driving an Oldsmobile this weekend, but I guess they amended the entry list, and now is back in a Champion Power Equipment Chevy. I don't know how the magic of whatever the internet. He went from an Oldsmobile to a Chevy.
Yeah, the Oldsmobile is suddenly back. General Motors is returning to that, and they're going into the truck business.
Yeah, they're showing Oldsmobile bravadas and crap, and then they're like getting Pontiac references too because they killed Pontiac. I mean, it was crazy. I'm like, how the hell? I mean, and it was all over socials. It's like, how the hell do you mix that up and put them in a freaking Oldsmobile? But I mean, Oldsmobiles in their day, of course, won plenty of times at Talladega. So there's that. Johnny Sauter driving for Hattori Racing randomly, and Ricky or Richard Waters, a longtime crew chief there. Jason White, I don't know which one that is, whether it's the Canadian one or the one that always had the gunbroker.com. Dawson Sutton driving the 25 with Shane Wilson again, probably going to be racing in that truck full time next year. Doza in that 28 for FDNY. Brett Holmes with Mike Shiplett as his crew chief had a chance a few years ago to win there at Dega. And you got Danny Bone will be in the 44 for Nice. Stephen Parsons in the 75, of course, for Henderson. Ryan Reed, Adam Alexander's favorite driver, back randomly at a super speedway, but of course he's won 2 times at Daytona, so it isn't all, I guess, all that far-fetched. Clay Greenfield trying to make a rare start there. Yeah, so, I mean, you have, and then Mason Maggio, who actually has Carl Long as his crew chief. So that'll see if they can go and make the show. Bring it up here in terms of the picks. What did we do last? Josh, you went first, so I'll go first here this week. So trucks at Talladega. Phil, who will I choose for this race? I am going to go with. It is tough, actually. I will take. I'm going to take Taylor Gray. To get his first win in the Truck Series. He has Jeff Hensley as his crew chief. It's an opportunity race, of course, trying to move himself over through the playoff, get into the next round. That would get him into the Final Four if he were to win, right? So that would be pretty crazy. Taylor Gray is my win pick. My wild card pick would be, I'm going to go and say Dawson Sutton because he's a rookie and he's not been a regular all season, but they seemingly all of a sudden have found pace. So, I mean, I guess that's that, and they've won at Talladega before to win, and Dawson Sutton wild card. Josh, you get to make your pick, but then you also get to add in the Tate Fogleman algorithm, the place where it came about many years ago when Josh did the algorithm and picked Tate Fogleman we laughed. We thought, oh, that's funny. Oh, that's cool. Oh, Tate Fogleman, you know, he ended up, I think, on his side or on his lid, but he ended up winning the race at Talladega. And from there, the Tate Fogleman algorithm was born. So we always bring it out for super speedway races. So it's time. The last super speedway race of 2024. So what do we say with all of that, Josh?
Yeah, well, I mean, first I got to give my own pick here, and I'm gonna go with Raja Caruth winning on a super speedway. Which, hey, he was second in Daytona, and it could happen.
Nick Sanchez,
Sanchez there. It could happen because things happen on super speedway, and that's not to say that you can only do it on super speedway, but just knowing how the Spire cars are, they run up front at the big tracks at super speedways. So I'm going to say he takes the win here, locks himself into the next round. Of course, I guess this is to the championship for you, so that would lock him into the championship for. So yeah, we'll go with that. Let's see here. Who else can be a wild card? I'm gonna go as a wild card. Stephen Parsons. Why not? The 75. That's another truck that can run up front. We've seen it before with Parker Kligerman running in that car. So yeah, we'll go with him. And then of course, on the 3rd anniversary of the Tate Fogleman algorithm, or at least this is the 4th time we've done it now at Talladega, but the 3rd year since then, it says the 33 of Lawless Allen. What a name! That's what a name. In addition to Tate Fogleman algorithm, what a name! Lawless Allen goes out and wins the race. So that's what it's thinking. So good job.
Oh, this is I've always had because it's like one of the greatest names ever in life, Lawless Allen. And then he has him and his family have that garage gimmick or whatever. That's why he gets rides everywhere. But he's driving a Josh Rayum truck. And if he goes and gets this, I think there would be the amount of inbreeding and fires and stuff in the Boulevard would be crazy. I don't think Josh Rayum's team would be able to make it back to North Carolina, wherever they're located. I mean, no, not making jokes about what's been going on, unfortunately, with the storm. I'm saying they'd be so drunk they wouldn't be able to get around. Wow, Lawless Allen. There you go. That's why we have the Tate Fogleman algorithm for picks like that. We'll move forward to the Xfinity Series 39 for 38. Wow, Trimtex. That's an old sponsor. I haven't seen that in a long time. Good paint scheme for Josh Bilicki there. You're running the Roval there for Gibbs. So actually there's 38 for 38, so there won't be any DNQs. You got what is it here? Yeah, so the usual drivers here. I mean, Jesse Love, of course, won earlier this year. So, and the RCR cars are always good on the super speedways. Anthony Alfredo there, Our Motorsports. I think they get RCR equipment. Dylan Lupton will be in the 15 for AM Racing. Taylor Gray in the 19 for Joe Gibbs. Aric Almirola, former winner at Talladega and Cup, will be driving the 20. Dean Thompson will be in the Sam Hunt number 26. Jeb Burton, former winner, 2-time winner at Talladega, driving the Golden Corral car. You get Jordan Anderson making one of his limited starts in a third car for his team. And Larry Mack will be the crew chief, of course, his father-in-law. And we've got some of these others. Cesar Baccarella racing is usually on the super speedways like he does, so he'll be back in the 45. Clements, former winner, super speedway winner at Daytona, and then he's had multiple wins in the series. Carson Kvapil will be in the 88 after the announcement that he'll be running full-time next year, taking over the 1. Nick Leitz in the 92 for DGM. CJ McLaughlin, rolling caution, will be in the 07 for SS Greenlight. David Starr, who has to be at least 98 years old, driving the 14. Carson Ware in the 53 for Joey Gase Racing. So, Josh, you get to make your actual picks first. Then I'll make mine, and then we bring out the fun for last.
Of course. Yeah, we'll do that here. Let's see. Let me make sure. Okay, right. I'll pick Austin Hill. Austin Hill. That's a solid pick on a Talladega. Can't go wrong with an Austin Hill pick there on the super speedway. And I guess my wild card pick here for me. For me here in a wild card, Anthony Alfredo. We'll go with some fast pasta this weekend. I think he can run up front here, which, he ran up front for a little bit at Bristol a few weeks ago, so I'm sure he can run up front here at Talladega.
Yeah, I agree with, definitely your regular pick is probably the best pick you can make in the Xfinity series on a super speedway, even if he's a douche. Anthony Alfredo has been close a few times on these drafting tracks, and that our team has had pace, especially on these type of tracks too. So it's a good combination, I would say. For me, I'm gonna go with someone who's retiring. I'm gonna go with Parker Kligerman to finally get that maiden Xfinity Series win and advance into the next round of the playoffs in the process. That would be huge for him. Parker, who has won in trucks for, I think, 2 different organizations, and at Talladega would be a big win for the Big Machine, or Big McKine if you're Baba Booey Records team. And the wild card for me, wild card pick, I'm going to go with Josh Williams because it's a Kaulig car. I know they're not the same team as they have been. They've not really had pace, but Josh Williams is a guy who always kind of figures out a way, and these super speedway races are opportunities. So I'm going to go with him as my choice, and Kaulig has had great history at Talladega, so who knows? So I'm picking 2 guys to possibly, both of them could be first-time winners in the Xfinity Series if they come off. So there's that. The Tate Fogleman algorithm for Xfinity says
that Jordan Anderson, it's going out here on a limb. Jordan Anderson wins the race there on Saturday.
That would, Larry Mack got really close with Jeffrey Earnhardt a few years ago. Jordan Anderson, of course, got the win with Jeb Burton a couple years back. I forget if they had another one at Daytona. I might be mixing up something there, but if Jordan Anderson, he almost won at Daytona in a truck. I know that. So if Jordan Anderson won, it would be insane as well. But it wouldn't be as far-fetched considering the kind of cars they put out there on a weekly basis, especially for Parker Retzlaff, and the way they're able to work as a team in the drafting tracks too. So that'll be something to see, worthwhile to go and keep track of. Last but not least, the Cup Series at Talladega. Second race of round 2. I go and get yeah. So I will pick first here. Go through the entry list for the Yellow Wood 500. The Xfinity is the United Reynolds 250. The Yellow Wood 500 will have 40 cars for 40 spots. Chase Briscoe will be racing throwback to Tony driving the Rush Truck Center's sponsorship with the all straight and tricolored scheme, the black with the red in the middle and then the yellow trim. So that'll be a throwback. 41 for Ryan Preece will be racing Wonder Bread again this year, so that'll be cool. Chastain will be racing with Busch Light Camo, Cindric Discount Tire, Bald Spot Dylan with Bass Pro, Josh Berry with Sunny D, Brad Keselowski with Build Submarines, Justin Haley, of course, driving the 7, Gamebridge, Lucas Oil for Kyle Busch, Kelly Blue Book for Clyde, Noah Gragson with Beef Aru, Dennis Hamlin, who's been busy this week, FedEx One Rate, possibly one of the last races of FedEx, Menards and Pennzoil for Blaney, AJ Allmendinger, Strive in the number 13 car. I mentioned Briscoe. Cody Ware will be driving RB's car, both his car and then Clay Milliken's in Dallas will have RBs on it. SVG will have WeatherTech, his usual sponsor, on the 16. Nexletol for Christopher Buescher. Bass Pro for Truex, Bell with DeWalt, Dex Imaging for Harrison Burton, Logano Shell Pennzoil, U.S. Air Force for Bubba, Raptor for Byron, Circle for Daniel Hemrick, Loves Travel Stops for McDowell, Georgia Peanut Commission. It's interesting with that, with of course President Jimmy Carter turning 100. Talking about Georgia and farming peanuts and farmers there. Todd Gillen, Wonder Bread for Preece, Gear Wrench for John Hunter, Dollar Tree, Eric Jones, Epoxy Depot for JJ Ailey, whatever the hell that is. Nasty Beast for Tyler Reddick. I'm trying to get a sweep of the season there at Talladega. Richard with Kroger Health and Palmolive. Track he's won at before. Bowman, of course, with Ally. Mighty Firebreaker for Corey LaJoy. Monster Energy for Keebler Gibbs. Anthony Alfredo doing double duty. Fortified Building Solutions for the Beard Motorsport 62. Focused Health for Zane Smith. Delaware Life for Carson Hocevar. Live Fast Motorsports, number 78 for BJ McLeod, and Daniel Suarez with Tootsies on the 99. Alrighty then. Who will I pick to win? I'm going to pick Ryan Blaney. He's really, really good at Talladega. And I think he's going to get another one here. Fords usually are solid at these super speedways, and if he's there at the end, I really think he'll be the one to get the job done there. So YRB, Blaney to win, and my wild card is going to be Justin Haley because he's a former super speedway winner. That 7 car and the Spire team has been on the cusp here. The Spire team has made a lot of positive progress. So what would be a better way to lead into the next season with Rodney Childers coming over to get a win with Justin Haley, and then also make the Roval even more chaotic if it needed to be more chaotic. So, Josh, you get the last word here with your picks and then the algorithm.
Yeah, so for me, I'm gonna go with Joey Logano winning here at the Super Speedway here, and my wild card, I'm gonna go out with Michael McDowell. Shout out to the lawsuit. Let's go. So, I'm sure they'll take the win away in post race because they decided to sue NASCAR on antitrust grounds. But we'll go with those are my 2 picks there. And that brings us to the algorithm, which the algorithm, what does it say for the winner? Well, it says a Ford is going to win. It says the 21 of Harrison Burton, which is very plausible because this just happened. I witnessed it at Daytona, Harrison Burton winning his first race. So he could win his second race according to the algorithm here at Daytona or at Talladega. So yeah, it's very plausible that could happen. But nonetheless, that's what it says.
Yeah, so I mean, we'll see if Harrison Burton can get 2 consecutive 2 out of the last 3 drafting track wins on his way out the door of the Cup Series, at least for now. And I mean, we picked Fords across the board for winners. Or we picked Fords to win. That algorithm picked a Ford. You have, I think, every pick we made sans my Justin Haley pick, which he used to drive a Ford. So that we'll see. That would be something because NASCAR and their lack of transparency, if they went and McDowell somehow or another won the race, or Gilliland or whatever, and then they go and drop anchor on them, it would be a bad look. It'd be the same thing with 2311 or Denny Hamlin for that matter. Even though he drives for a different organization, but we'll see what happens with that on Sunday. Josh, it's time for the sim segment, and as much as we always look forward to it, you ran 85 miles an hour for 28 hours, so that, I don't know, like, what can you do to top doing that in a regular car on the roads of the United States of America? Unless you're going to go win the Indy 500 again, but tell us what's going on in the world of iRacing and gaming on the sim segment.
Yeah, it's it's a little hard to top that. Man, I will say though that at my job, because I did tell someone that, and I talked with them about NASCAR and F1 a lot, and it's like, this guy's a race car driver, and I mean, like, yeah, I like that I'm getting referred to by this now. That's funny. and given what we were talking about beforehand, that's great. But I'm trying to pull up. Let me see if I can pull up what was said about NASCAR 25 here from iRacing. Let's see. Well, Keanu Reeves trained with iRacing because he's going to be doing the 8 hours of Indianapolis, or the sport races, not the 8 hours itself, but the sport races of the Toyota GR Cup for the Indianapolis 8 hours. So there's video of him on an iRacing rig, which that's pretty cool. Keanu, one of the best actors, John Wick himself, going out and racing on iRacing to prep for this. So I wonder how he'll do in that Indianapolis 8-hour race. I think the producers of iRacing talking about NASCAR 25. I'm still trying to look through Dale Jr.'s Twitter account to see what they did. Well, I guess in the meantime, the iRacing NASCAR Championship was held at the NASCAR Hall of Fame. Parker White, sim racer. I actually don't know what. Let me see. What team is he on? He might be on Williams Esports. I think so. Williams Esports wins the iRacing NASCAR Championship Coca-Cola iRacing Series, which again held in NASCAR Hall of Fame there, and Dale Jr. is on the title of the trophy, the Dale Jr. Cup. I think that's what they call it. So that's pretty cool. As Ludacris is enjoying his time as an Atlanta Falcons fan there on Thursday Night Football. This is what they said about NASCAR 25. Steve Myers said he saw a preview of night lighting in NASCAR 25, and he said he thought it was a real-world roof camera video. No, I don't have a picture because they took it down before I could take one. And, that was some good, interesting trickle of information there from the producer of iRacing there. So that's pretty interesting there. Kind of hearing more leaks and information about NASCAR 25 as it comes out. So looking forward to hearing about that and hearing more stuff as we, progress into 25 when they release this game and fumble on the field there for the Bucks, but I think they recover there. But as far as my racing, of course, I was doing something else this weekend, of course, but probably this weekend we'll get back into that. Hopefully, as long as I don't feel demotivated by the Jaguars on Sunday in that throwback game there. I gotta apply updates to iRacing. Let me see if I can pull up the schedule. I need the schedule for that. I haven't looked at it. iRacing. Let's go there. Continue. Gotta log in. Unbelievable. Gotta log in. But that's gonna be exciting. Continuing to hear more about information about the NASCAR 25, which I think definitely get on PlayStation there, play console, and hearing about that.
I will just kick in here because we're doing this part of the show and you're going and talking about Thursday Night Football, but then the Mets came back with a 3-run homer from Pete Alonso to advance into the divisional round, and they'll be playing their division rival Philadelphia Phillies in that series. So that'll be interesting. The Atlanta Braves getting knocked out, but then 2 NL East teams staying alive. So both New York teams still alive in the MLB playoffs. No Houston assholes in the playoffs at this point for the first time since 2012. So there's that.
Okay, yeah. Well, that's significant, I guess, because I don't know. Haven't the Mets been the Mets have been pretty bad over the years? Haven't had a lot of luck.
Not recently, and then they have one of the richest people owning their team, and it all imploded last year, and then this year in a rebuilding kind of year, they were able to put things together and make this playoff run. So that's pretty good, pretty cool for them, for the Mets, and it's great for New York in terms of baseball playoffs, October, uh, leading into hockey season, leading into the NBA is probably the most uh, significant NBA season in New York in 25 years. So that's a lot going on there. So we'll see what happens with that.
So, anyways, though, back to iRacing, what we've got on the table this weekend. Of course, Talladega, which, yeah, that should be obvious because it follows the real life schedule. NASCAR Class A, B, and C, Truck, and Xfinity and Cup, all racing at Talladega this weekend, of course. So definitely that'll be an opportunity to try to pick up a win, which is always very interesting how those races play out. Haven't been able to win quite yet at Talladega in any of those series, but I have finished well, of course. The 87 cars I have been able to win at Talladega before. It's a little different skill set there, of course, but we'll definitely go for it. Trying to see if I can, the 87, let me see if I find that. Looking at oval track racing here on iRacing, the Menard series at Atlanta NASCAR. Wow, what a missed opportunity! You have all right. iRacing's got to fix this because you've got NASCAR regular series at Talladega, but then the 87s are at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park for some reason. So I don't know what the decision was there, but I guess maybe they can't have every race at Talladega. So oh well. The IndyCar, I guess Junior IndyCar series at Richmond, that might be interesting. Seeing some highlights from that at Charlotte. They ran at Charlotte. That looked interesting there. So that might be something. The IndyCar Oval Fixed Series at Atlanta Motor Speedway there. That's interesting, and it's probably with the new Atlanta too. So that's going to be a wild one in the IndyCars for sure. Looking at the road racing as well. Got the Toyota GR Cup at the Indianapolis Road Course as well. GT4 Falcon Cup at Road Atlanta. I guess that's simulating the Petit Le Mans coming up next weekend at Road Atlanta. Ferrari GT3 Challenge at Okayama Circuit. IMSA iRacing Series at Circuit Spa at Spa. I can't say that name, last part of that.
Frankenstraw.
Yeah, Spa Frankenstraw. That's of course, but I just call it Spa. There. The IMSA Vintage Series at Daytona Road Course there. GR Cup at Indianapolis Motor Speedway Road Course. Rainmaster Series at Okayama International Circuit. BMW Power M Tour at Okayama International Circuit. There. Advanced MX5 Cup at the Nürburgring on the Industrial Fahrhahn course there. GT3 Fanatec Challenge at Indianapolis Road Course there. Let's go to, before we get too deep into this, let's go to the Formula Car, what's on the table there. You've got the Classic Lotus at Spa, Classic Lotus cars at Spa, Formula Fords at Circuito de Navarro. Sebring has the Formula C Super Formula Lights. Caldwell Park has the Formula Fords D-Class series, not the rookie class. The Skip Barber cars at Dalton Park. IndyCar, fixed IndyCar road course series is at Barber Motorsports Park. Grand Prix Legends at Sandown International Motor Raceway, of course. So, yeah, lots of choices, of course, across all types of racing on iRacing. So, yeah, looking forward to hopping on, probably do some Talladega this weekend and have some fun with that, which, of course, going to have to stream one of those Talladega races and everything. I would like to be able to do that, which, of course, at USailor 2, at Twitch and UC2. Go and watch those videos there. Streams are all there, or will be broadcasted from that place there on the internet. And of course, my personal Twitter, of course, which, talking about all my interests in the Jaguars and criticizing them, talking about the charter antitrust lawsuit, which, Ryan McGee probably posted the worst NASCAR article of all time today on Twitter, so go on there and give your opinion on that, of course, but, he's one of the bootlickers, of course, of our media corps in NASCAR, and the controversy about SiriusXM not posting the full interview with the Jeremy Kessler, the lawyer representing 2311 and FRM there. So, yeah, of course, all the discourse on there, and at JP Huffline is where you can find that there, of course. But got that, and then, of course, our YouTube page, which we have almost everything uploaded there at Grip Strip Podcast on YouTube. So, yeah, of course, glad to be back for another week, and I guess, glad to be able to talk about everything, glad to talk about what I did this past weekend and driving cross country, doing a coast to coast road trip. So, yeah, of course, being able to discuss that and being able to do that. So, guess we'll have an exciting slate of racing this weekend here at Talladega.
Yeah, we will see how it all goes at Talladega and talk about it on the next episode 240 of the GSP. Also the roundup. We'll talk about week 5 of the NFL for the in real life for our teams, but also for fantasy with our matchup that we'll have. For socials, you can find me at PGMatthew28 on Twitter. We have Grip Strip Pod on Twitter as well. You can find me at PGMGSP28 on Instagram. And you can find PhilipGMatthew.com. You can find the Grip Strip Podcast there, along with, of course, on our YouTube pages. Josh goes and takes care of that so well. And then I got the episodes on deck, so we'll try to get this one in the pipeline out earlier than what it has been for a while. So we will do all that, and we will see you next time on the GSP. We thank you all for listening, supporting. Let us know what you think. Let us know what you want to hear. If there's people you would want to hear, hit us up. And thanks for liking, subscribing, listening the whole bit. And we'll see you next time.